Chapter 2143. Shut up. The second elder shouted. His voice was also very young, but it was very stern. The great elder looked at the second elder and said, "Second elder, aren't you in closed-door cultivation? You can't wait for me to continue my closed-door cultivation so that you can kill my good-for-nothing disciple?" The second elder turned around and looked at the great elder. It was a cold face. The bridge of his nose was high, his facial features were cold, his dark eyes were incomparably sharp, and his two sword-like eyebrows emitted a threatening aura. "Can't wait?" "Second elder, this old man doesn't like to hear these words. It's your disciple who made a mistake, why do you say this old man can't wait?" The great elder laughed. "Don't say such pompous words. Wuxia has indeed gone overboard this time, but at most, he can only be considered an accomplice. He doesn't deserve to die." The second elder said indifferently. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows, and secretly thought, he really doesn't hide it at all. He has a high position and power, second only to the great elder. What else does he need to hide? It seems that it's impossible to kill Wuxia this time. Mu Tianyang and Hua Yi sighed secretly. At the same time, when Wuxia heard the second elder's words, his mind immediately calmed down. Following that, he looked at Qin Feiyang and the others, his face full of pride and provocation, as if to say, "See, I have a backer, it's hard to die even if I want to." Madman's eyes flashed as he looked at the second elder. "Don't deserve to die." "Second elder, according to what you said, Chengli and those 4 disciples deserve to die." The great elder said unhappily. "I didn't say that. But since they're already dead, why add more souls to the dead? Besides, haven't Jin Yunchang and Yin Hui already been killed by you? It can be considered as not letting Chengli and the others down." The second elder said. The great elder's eyes darkened, and said, "Second elder, this is not something you should say as the second elder of 9 Heavens Palace." "Then what do you want me to say? I only have one disciple, is it wrong for me to protect him?" The second elder said angrily. Shangguan Fenglan frowned. "Second elder, aren't you being a bit too unreasonable?" "Shut up. I'm talking to boss. Who are you to interrupt? Don't you know your place?" The second elder scolded mercilessly. "How dare you bully my Lan, Hua Yi was burning with rage as he roared, "Even our 9 Heavens Palace's second elder has to be reasonable, right?" The second elder shot an unfriendly glance at Hua Yi and said, "Who do you think you are?" Shangguan Fenglan saw that the situation was not good and quickly shouted at Hua Yi, "You shut up for me." "I won't." Hua Yi's temper flared up. He looked at the second elder and said, "Although I'm only an ordinary disciple, I at least know that a person should have a bottom line, and also have a bit of conscience." "How dare you?" The second elder enunciated each word clearly. With a loud bang, a terrifying pressure rushed towards Hua Yi. Shangguan Fenglan's expression changed as she hurriedly stood in front of Hua Yi and cried out, "Second elder, please calm down." However, the second elder turned a deaf ear to him. Pressure surged forth. There was a trace of fear in Shangguan Fenglan's eyes, but she did not retreat. Boom! The pressure blasted behind her. Puff! Shangguan Fenglan's delicate body trembled, and a mouthful of blood suddenly spurted out. Lan, Hua Yi was shocked and hurriedly supported Shangguan Fenglan, his face full of concern. "Can you say a few words less? If he's angry and insists on killing you, even I can't stop him." Shangguan Fenglan secretly said. Good, good, good." Hua Yi nodded repeatedly. Lan When the second elder heard how Hua Yi addressed Shangguan Fenglan, his expression was slightly stunned, and then the corners of his mouth pursed into a playful smile. "Shangguan Fenglan, you're actually playing with a disciple. I knew it, so many people pursued you before, but you didn't agree. It turns out that you like those who are weaker than you, those who are younger than you. An old cow eating young grass, your hobby is not bad. His words were full of ridicule. The other giants also looked at Shengwan Fenglan and Hua Yi with strange expressions. An old cow eating young grass, Hua Yi originally did not intend to interrupt. But when he heard these words, the anger in his heart that had been suppressed with great difficulty rose again. And it was even stronger than before. The great elder's gaze sank slightly, and he said angrily, "Second elder, your words are a bit too much." "Too much? No way. It's just the truth." The second elder laughed. "Damn it. This bastard is really annoying." Qin Feiyang muttered. "So what if I'm annoyed?" Mu Tianyang glanced helplessly, looked at the angry Hua Yi next to him, and said, "Brother Hua, we are not his opponent, don't be impulsive. Watching your beloved woman being humiliated like this, if it were you, would you be able to bear it?" Hua Yi said angrily. "I really can't bear it." Mu Tianyang shook his head and said, "However, you have to bear it even if you can't bear it." Jiang Haotian, Mu Tianyang, frenzy, take Hua Yi and leave immediately. Shengwan Fenglan's voice suddenly sounded in the minds of Qin Feiyang and the other two. Okay. The three of them nodded. They knew that if they didn't take Hua Yi away, it would definitely become more and more troublesome. The three of them immediately carried Hua Yi and walked outside. Shengwan Fenglan wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, looked up at the second elder, and said, "Second elder, although Hua Yi is weaker and younger than me, but when it comes to feelings, as long as both sides are in love, it's fine, so please respect me a little." "How am I disrespecting you?" "Because you are already so old, is it wrong to call you an old cow?" "That's right, isn't it, everyone?" The second elder glanced at the big shots, his face full of ridicule. None of the big shots made a sound. But on their faces, there was a trace of a smile. "Fuck you, you're still pushing your luck." Hua Yi had just been carried to the door by Qin Feiyang and the other two. Hearing the second elder's words, he was immediately furious. "Courting death." The second elder's eyes were cold. "The one courting death is you." Hua Yi roared. "Brother Hua, calm down. Let's talk about it later, let's talk about it later." Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang persuaded. Even Madman had been persuading him. If this continued, something big would definitely happen. "Let go of me, I'm going to kill him." How could Hua Yi listen? Especially when he saw Shengwan Fenglan being humiliated in public, his heart couldn't help but go crazy. A murderous intent appeared in the second elder's eyes, and he said to Qin Feiyang and the other two, "Let him go, I want to see how he's going to kill me." "Second elder, please be magnanimous, don't bother with him. We'll take him away immediately." Mu Tianyang said with a flattering smile. The murderous intent in the second elder's eyes grew stronger, and he shouted, "I told you to let him go, didn't you hear me?" Qin Feiyang and the other two froze and quickly let go of Hua Yi. The second elder put his hands behind his back, looked at Hua Yi contemptuously, and said, "Boy, come, I'm standing here, kill me if you have the ability." "Brother Hua, don't make a move. He's deliberately provoking you. As long as you make a move, he will have a reason to kill you in front of the great elder." Qin Feiyang and the other two secretly thought. Humph. Forlorn, even if I die, it's worth it. Hua Yi coldly snorted, and walked towards the second elder step by step. Hua Yi. Shengwan Fenglan was also burning with anxiety. Why was this person so stubborn? "Second brother, it's just a disciple, is there a need to make such a big fuss?" The great elder frowned, and waved his hand, "Hua Yi, you can leave." "Boss, a mere disciple dares to clamor with me, if I let him leave now, how can I establish myself in the Nine Heavens Palace in the future?" The second elder raised his eyebrows. "Clamor? Alright, then I'll show you my true arrogance. The corner of Hui's mouth lifted. Shua. Suddenly, he disappeared from everyone's line of sight. Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang were shocked. How did he disappear? They didn't catch him at all. How is this possible? Madman muttered. What do you mean? Could it be that even Madman didn't catch him? When Qin Feiyang and Madman heard Madman's voice, they hurriedly looked at him and saw Madman's face filled with disbelief. Looking at his expression, they really didn't catch him. The two of them were in disbelief as they looked at Shengguan Fenglan, the Great Elder, the Second Elder, and the other big shots. Each and every one of them had a look of surprise. It can't be. Even they didn't catch how Hui disappeared. Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang were suddenly in a state of shock. Where are you looking? Hui's voice suddenly sounded again. Everyone looked over and saw that Hui had actually appeared behind Uzijia at some point in time. Uzijia was also in a daze. One must know that he was a perfect divine lord, and Hui was just a perfect divine war god. But when Hui appeared behind him, he didn't feel anything at all. But then, a terrifying thought crawled up in everyone's mind. Why did Hui run behind Uzijia? Could it be, no? Shengguan Fenglan quivered and hurriedly shouted at Hui. However, Hui turned a deaf ear. He raised his arm and grabbed Uzijia's head. You're courting death. Uzijia shouted angrily. A mere perfect divine war god wanted to kill him? But just as he was about to make a move, he was shocked to find that whether it was divine power or physical strength, he couldn't mobilize them. In fact, it was as if his entire body had been frozen, and he was unable to move in the slightest. Do you know? The person you shouldn't provoke the most is actually not Jiang Haotian, nor Madman, and definitely not Mu Tianyang. It's me, Hui. Hui lowered his head and whispered into Uzijia's ear. Then, the big hand that grabbed Uzijia's head slightly exerted force. Kacha. Immediately, Uzijia's head exploded like a watermelon. His divine soul was directly shattered. He died on the spot. What? He actually killed Uzijia. He's just a perfect divine war god, how did he do it? The big shots' hearts fluctuated and they were extremely shocked. Great Elder, Shengguan Fenglan, Qin Feiyang, Madman, Mu Tianyang, Gongzi Feng, including Feng Yuan who was paralyzed on the ground, were all dumbfounded. Not to mention the Second Elder. He was completely stunned. Not only did he kill his disciple in front of him, but he also killed him so easily. Is this kind of strength a perfect divine war god should have? Chapter 2144. When he came back to his senses, the Second Elder was furious. There was no doubt about it. Killing Uzijia in front of him, in front of so many people, was not only a provocation to him, but also a humiliation to him. As the Second Elder of Nine Heavens Palace, how could he tolerate someone being so presumptuous in front of him? Not to mention that the other party was just a small disciple. Boom! A monstrous pressure rushed out of his body like a torrent of beasts and pounced towards Hui. This time, the Second Elder did not hold back. The terrifying aura made Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang despair. But Hui's expression did not change. It was as if he did not put it in his eyes at all. Boom! The pressure enveloped over, but Hui stood under the pressure and his body did not even tremble. It was as if this pressure had no effect on him. How could this be? The Second Elder's eyes could not help but have a trace of surprise. Shengguan Fenglan was also in disbelief. That look in her eyes felt as if it was the first time she had seen Hui. She did not expect that this young man who usually did not care much would have such a terrifying ability. This elder does not believe that I can't deal with a small disciple like you. Killing intent surged in the second elder's eyes as divine power emerged. Second elder. The great elder hurriedly shouted. He actually used divine power. This was not a child's play. He killed my disciple, he must die today. How could the second elder, who was already drowned in anger, listen? His divine power roared in all directions as he charged towards Hui. The great elder's face sank as he quickly condensed a divine power barrier, enveloping the second elder and Hui. Doing this was to protect the conference hall. He was very clear about the second elder's strength. Although the conference hall had been tempered by divine power, once the second elder was serious, it would definitely be destroyed. Secondly, it was to isolate the movements here so as not to alarm the disciples of Nine Heavens Palace. As for the third point, it was naturally to protect Qin Feiyang and the others. After all, Qin Feiyang and the others were too weak. If they were not protected, they would definitely be affected. This guy suddenly became unfathomable, outside the barrier. Madman looked at Hui standing inside the barrier, his eyes filled with surprise. I knew that his strength wasn't that simple, but I didn't expect it to be so terrifying. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. Yeah. This is beyond my imagination. Mu Tianyang nodded. In the blink of an eye, Shunli had already arrived in front of Hui. Wang. Just as Hui was about to be drowned by the divine power, a fiery red divine light suddenly roared out from Hui's body, forming a 5-foot-wide barrier. Boom! The divine power slammed into the barrier. A shocking scene immediately appeared before everyone's eyes. Second elder's strength was obvious to all. Even Shengwan Fenglan was no match for him. However, at this moment, when his divine power bombarded the barrier formed by Hui, the barrier did not show any signs of cracking. How is this possible? The second elder glared angrily. Within the 5-foot-wide red enchantment, Hui crossed his arms across his chest. As he looked at the second elder, his face was filled with ridicule. Wait! The aura of this barrier, suddenly. Great Elder stood up and stared at the fiery red barrier protecting Hui in surprise. The other giants also seemed to have noticed something. They stood up one after another, their faces filled with surprise. Including Feng Yuan and Shengwan Fenglan. What's going on? Looking at the reaction of these people, Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang looked at each other, their eyes filled with suspicion. Then, they looked at Madman. Like Great Elder and the others, he stared straight at the fiery red barrier. Big Brother Jiang, what's going on? Feng Yuan secretly asked. If you don't know, how would I know? Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice, then glanced at Madman and secretly asked, what are you guys doing? The great assembly hall was dead silent. Even the second elder was staring at Hui in bewilderment. And if one looked carefully, one would find that there seemed to be a trace of fear in his eyes. Impossible, how could it be him? Madman finally spoke, but his words were filled with disbelief. Who? Qin Feiyang asked. Vice Palace Master. The aura emitted by that barrier is exactly the same as the aura of our Nine Heavens Palace's Vice Palace Master. Madman said. What? Qin Feiyang and the other two were shocked and looked at Hui in unison. Could he be the Vice Palace Master of Nine Heavens Palace? No. He's not the Vice Palace Master. Because I've seen the Vice Palace Master, their looks are too different. Madman shook his head. If he's not the Vice Palace Master, then why is the barrier he condensed the same aura as the Vice Palace Master? Qin Feiyang secretly said. This is what I can't figure out, and it's probably what Great Elder and the others can't figure out. Madman said. It was also at this moment. Great Elder came back to his senses and shouted, Second Elder, retreat for this old man. Second elder, who was standing opposite Hua Yi, suddenly quivered and hurriedly retreated to the side. Following closely. Great elder waved his hand and the barrier protecting the great assembly hall dissipated. Then, he took 2 steps and walked in front of Hua Yi. He cupped his hands and said, "May I ask who you are?" His tone was also incomparably respectful. Hua Yi glanced at second elder and smiled coldly. Without speaking, he took out a jade pendant from the clothes under his neck. The jade pendant was half the size of a baby's fist. It was shaped like a cluster of flames, as if it was cast from magma, shining with a hazy treasure light. Upon seeing this jade pendant, Great Elder and the others' eyes trembled as they hurriedly knelt on one knee on the ground. Second Elder was no exception. And at this moment, his expression was full of fear. This, Qin Feiyang, Mu Tianyang, and Gong Zhongfeng looked at this scene and their eyes almost popped out. It was just a jade pendant, but it actually made all the giants kneel down. This is not an ordinary jade pendant. Madman transmitted his voice. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was surprised. This is the Vice Palace Master's Palace Master token. In other words, it's the so-called identity token. In our 9 Heavens Palace, there is a clear rule that seeing the Palace Master token is like seeing the Palace Master himself. So no matter who it is, they have to kowtow. Madman secretly said. Palace Master token. Qin Feiyang's heart trembled, but at the same time, he was very confused. Since Hua Yi wasn't the Vice Palace Master, then why would he have the Palace Master token in his hand? Second Elder, now do you know how big of a mistake you have made? Hua Yi sneered. As he spoke, he waved his hand, and the fiery red barrier immediately collapsed. It then turned into a stream of light and entered the Palace Master token. So that barrier was transformed by the Palace Master token. Qin Feiyang muttered. When Second Elder heard Hua Yi's words, his face couldn't help but turn pale. He carefully asked, "May I ask who you are?" Hua Yi put away the Palace Master token and proudly said, "Your Vice Palace Master is my master. In other words, I am his last disciple." What? Vice Palace Master's disciple? The group of giants looked at each other. Why haven't they heard of the Vice Palace Master accepting any disciple? What? Are you doubting what I said? Hua Yi angrily said. No. The giants hurriedly shook their heads. The Great Elder got up and looked at Hua Yi with a smile. Since you are the Vice Palace Master's disciple, then you should know where the Vice Palace Master is now, right? Of course I know. But Lord Master has instructed me not to reveal his whereabouts to anyone. Especially you, Great Elder. Hua Yi smiled playfully. Especially me? The Great Elder was stunned. Yes. Master said that you, old man, are very annoying. If you know where he is, you will definitely go and bother him every day. Hua Yi said. The corner of the Great Elder's mouth twitched fiercely, and his expression was full of helplessness. He sighed and said, when will he change his willful character? Hua Yi grinned and quickly ran to Shengguan Fenglan. He smiled and said, Lan, why are you kneeling? Get up quickly. Shengguan Fenglan looked at Hua Yi with a complicated expression, then stood up and stood to the side silently. Hua Yi looked at Shengguan Fenglan in astonishment. Why did she seem more distant than before after revealing her identity? The other giants also got up one after another. Wait. Hua Yi raised his eyebrows and shouted, who told you to get up? The group of giants knelt on the ground again in unison. You old things, it's fine if you don't care about things usually, but at the critical moment, you still can't distinguish right from wrong. I really don't understand, why would Master raise you bunch of good-for-nothings? Hua Yi cursed angrily. The giants were ashamed. However, 2 of them were incomparably flustered. These two people were the second elder and Feng Yuan. Not to mention the second elder, after all, the previous scene had just happened. And Feng Yuan. Since Qin Feiyang and the others entered the Nine Heavens Palace, he had been secretly playing tricks. In the past, he didn't put Hua Yi in his eyes. He thought that Hua Yi was just a small character who followed Qin Feiyang to eat and drink. However, he didn't expect that Hua Yi was the real boss. So he was worried. Because Hua Yi knew everything he had done before. If Hua Yi told all of this to the deputy palace master, the consequences would be unimaginable. Cough, cough. Looking at the giants in panic, the great elder coughed and whispered, Hua Yi, you're just the deputy palace master's disciple after all. It's not good to let them kneel like this, right? Hua Yi said, you mean, I don't have this authority? The great elder nodded. Wrong. Do you know why I had to sneak into the Nine Heavens Palace? Hua Yi said. Why? The great elder was suspicious. Because it's Master's order. Master has long known that there are many restless people in our Nine Heavens Palace. So this time, he asked me to sneak into the Nine Heavens Palace and investigate these people. And he asked me to enforce the law on his behalf. In other words, even if it's you, the great elder, I have the right to punish you. Hua Yi said proudly. Enforce the law on behalf of the deputy palace master? All the big shots felt a chill in their hearts. This was a person who held the power to kill them. Do you have any objections? Hua Yi looked at the great elder and asked. Since it's the deputy palace master's order, this old man will naturally obey and cooperate with you. The great elder bowed. Okay. Except for Feng Yuan and the second elder, the rest of you go to the corner over there and reflect on your mistakes. Hua Yi pointed to the left corner of the main hall and shouted. It turned out that the group of high and mighty giants were like little sheep at this moment. They immediately ran to the corner and knelt neatly in front of it. Their hearts were bitter beyond words. Chapter 21:45. However, the second elder and Feng Yuan who were left behind were even more flustered. Hua Yi walked in front of the second elder and said, you don't know right from wrong, protecting Wuxia and humiliating Shangguan Fenglan in public. Is this what the second elder of the Nine Heavens Palace should do? You shouldn't. The second elder shook his head. Then why were you so arrogant before? Hua Yi said angrily. The second elder hurriedly said, it's my fault. What about Wuxia's death? Hua Yi teased. He deserved it. The second elder said without hesitation. Truth? Hua Yi asked. It's truer than real gold. The second elder nodded. But I'm still very unhappy. You almost killed me just now. Master dotes on me a lot. If he were to know that you're treating me like this, I think. Hua Yi's face was full of playfulness. I'm sorry, I was confused for a moment, I apologize to you. The arrogance from before had completely vanished, leaving only a heart full of fear. Hua Yi coldly snorted, the one you should apologize to is not me. The second elder was stunned, and quickly looked at Shangguan Fenglan, and said, Fenglan, I'm sorry, I take back my words from before, please forgive me. Hua Yi shouted, no sincerity, kowtow. Yes, yes, yes. The second elder nodded repeatedly, and while kowtowing, he said, Fenglan, I really didn't mean it just now, please forgive me for my moment of confusion. The dignified second elder is actually kowtowing in front of so many people, it's really embarrassing. Qin Feiyang laughed secretly. He only has himself to blame. Do you think that just because you're the second elder of the Nine Heavens Palace, you can go to heaven? Madman mocked without any concealment. This is called the cycle of karma, good and evil will be repaid. Mu Tianyang laughed. Looking at Shangguan Fenglan again. Seeing the second elder kowtowing to her, she was still a little flattered. Because whether it was status or strength, the second elder was much higher than her. Usually, it was her who respectfully knelt in front of the second elder. And now, the second elder was actually kneeling in front of her, which made it hard for her to adapt. Lan, don't be afraid. As long as you say the word, I will immediately ask the great elder to cripple him. Hua Yi transmitted his voice. Cripple him? Shengwan Fenglan was slightly stunned and looked at Hua Yi. That serious expression didn't seem like he was joking. Fenglan, please forgive me. I didn't do it on purpose. At that time, I was only spouting nonsense because I was too angry. Second elder's heart was burning with anxiety. Shengwan Fenglan took a deep breath and smiled at second elder. I'm fine. Thank you. The second elder was overjoyed. However, Hua Yi frowned and secretly said, Lan, he scolded you before. Shengwan Fenglan sighed, we are all from Nine Heavens Palace, there is no need for us to fight over such trivial matters. Is he insulting you, or is it a small matter? Hua Yi was very dissatisfied. Originally, he wanted to use this as an excuse to teach the second elder a lesson. But now, as the person involved, Shengwan Fenglan, did not pursue the matter. He had no reason to continue making things difficult for second elder. Don't go too far and muddle through. Besides, second elder's strength is second only to great elder. Nine Heavens Palace can't do without him. Shengwan Fenglan secretly said. You are really kind. Hua Yi secretly smiled and looked at second elder expressionlessly. Since Lan has forgiven you, then you can get up. Thank you. Second elder thanked him and got up and smiled gratefully at Shengwan Fenglan. Then, he walked to great elder's side and transmitted his voice, Boss, have you never doubted? Doubted what? Great elder was suspicious. Doubted his identity. We have followed the Vice Palace Master for so many years. If he had taken in a disciple, how could we not know? Second elder frowned. It's not like you don't know the character of our Vice Palace Master. He never plays by the rules. Maybe this child was taken in by him when he went out this time. It's also possible that he took in the past and hasn't announced it to the public. But no matter what, this child's identity is definitely not fake. Because of the Palace Master Token. The Palace Master Token is the Vice Palace Master's personal item. With the Vice Palace Master's strength, no one in the northern region can forcibly take the Palace Master Token from him. Great Elder secretly said. Second elder raised his eyebrows and no longer said anything. Feng Yuan. At the same time, Hua Yi looked at Feng Yuan again. Feng Yuan's eyes trembled, and his heart was panicking to the extreme. You can hide it from Great Elder, the big shots, and all the disciples of Nine Heavens Palace, but you can't hide it from me. Because I have personally experienced what you did to Jiang Haotian. And even I am the target of your eradication. Do you know what will happen to you if Master finds out about this? Hua Yi sneered. I'm sorry, it's all my fault in the past. Give me a chance, I will definitely turn over a new leaf. I will apologize to you. I just beg you, don't tell the Vice Palace Master. Feng Yuan hurriedly kowtowed. Now, how could he care about his identity and dignity? Saving his life was more important. Originally, with your crimes, I can have Great Elder kill you right now. However, as Great Elder said, I am only Master's disciple. As for your punishment, let's wait for Master to return and decide it himself. Now, go face the wall and reflect on your mistakes. Hua Yi waved his hand. Yes. Feng Yuan crawled up in a sorry state and quickly ran to the corner. He then knelt there, not daring to breathe loudly. Hua Yi coldly snorted and walked over to Qin Feiyang and the others. He chuckled, how was it? This brother was awe-inspiring just now, right? Qin Feiyang and the others rolled their eyes. Hua Yi looked at the three of them in displeasure. What kind of look is that? Do you believe that I won't punish you for offending your superiors? Qin Feiyang helplessly shook his head and bowed. I'm sorry, okay? That's more like it. I'm not the same as before. You have to be more polite and respectful to me. Hua Yi smiled proudly. You can continue to show off. The three of them secretly despised him. Hua Yi smiled embarrassedly and turned to look at Great Elder. My identity, please keep it a secret. Understood. Great Elder nodded. Hua Yi said, then can we leave? Of course. Great Elder smiled. Hua Yi retracted his gaze and looked at Qin Feiyang and the others. He smiled and said, let's go. The three of them looked at each other and smiled, then turned and walked out of the hall. Hua Yi walked a few steps and suddenly seemed to think of something. He turned to look at Great Elder and said, the world is still misunderstanding us. Don't forget to clear our name. I'll arrange it later. Great Elder said. Very good. Hua Yi nodded and glanced at Gongzi Feng. What are you still standing there for? Let's go. Yes, yes, yes. Gongzi Feng hurriedly nodded and ran out behind Qin Feiyang and the others. After the group left, Second Elder frowned and said, Boss, I still think it's a bit ridiculous. Actually, this old man also thinks it's a bit unbelievable. Great Elder shook his head. Second Elder was stunned and hurriedly asked, in other words, you're also suspecting his identity? No. This old man has no doubts. I just feel that it's a little hard to accept that the Vice Palace Master suddenly accepted such a disciple. Great Elder said. Second Elder frowned and said in a deep voice, I still don't believe it. We must find the Vice Palace Master as soon as possible to prove this matter. Great Elder said, then tell this old man, where can I find him? Second Elder wanted to say something but stopped, his face full of helplessness. Their Vice Palace Master was like a rootless duckweed. No one knew where he would float to. Great Elder said, actually, there's another person who knows the whereabouts of the Vice Palace Master. Who? Second Elder hurriedly asked. Great Elder looked at Shangguan Fenglan and said, Fenglan's master. Second Elder looked at Shangguan Fenglan and frowned again. Shangguan Fenglan said, don't look at me. I asked Master, but she didn't tell me. That old thing. Second Elder scolded angrily. Great Elder's eyes darkened, and he reprimanded, Second Elder, why don't you know how to restrain yourself? Was the previous lesson not enough? Humph. If he is really the Vice Palace Master's disciple, then I'll take it that I brought this upon myself. But if he isn't, then I'll settle this score with him properly. After Second Elder finished speaking, he flicked his sleeve and instantly disappeared without a trace. Sigh. Why can't they let this old man rest easy? Great Elder returned to his seat and rubbed his forehead, looking rather haggard. Shangguan Fenglan stepped forward, glanced at Feng Yuan and the others, and asked, Great Elder, what should we do with them? Great Elder looked up at the group of giants and said, if they have to kneel, then kneel. It's good for them to reflect on themselves. As for you, I've wronged you just now. It's really fine. Shangguan Fenglan smiled. You're the most obedient and sensible in Jiutian Palace. If they were half as obedient as you, I wouldn't need to personally manage the affairs of Jiutian Palace. Great Elder said helplessly. Capable people do more work. Shangguan Fenglan smiled. Fenglan, to tell you the truth, this old man is also tired. I really don't want to manage it anymore. However, look. Our Vice Pavilion Master is idling around all day long. That bunch of people also know how to be idle all day. If this old man doesn't manage it, Jiutian Palace will be in chaos. But fortunately, there's still you. You have to help this old man more in the future. Great Elder smiled. I will. Shengguan Fenglan nodded. Great Elder smiled in relief and said, then you should think about the candidates for the Enforcement Elder, as well as the candidates for the Inner and Outer Elders. Shengguan Fenglan said, isn't there a lunatic in the inner sect now? The Great Elder was stunned and speechless. You really want him to stay in charge of the inner sect? His personality is not suitable for that. Moreover, the stage of 9 Heavens Palace is not big enough for him. He will leave sooner or later. That makes sense. Shengguan Fenglan nodded. We have to learn from this lesson. In terms of selection, we must be careful. Great Elder reminded. Yes. Shengguan Fenglan respectfully replied. Then go do your work. Great Elder waved his hand. Fenglan will take her leave. Shengguan Fenglan respectfully bowed and turned to leave. Hua Yi, Jiang Haotian, Mu Tianyang, lunatic. Is it because Hua Yi is the Vice Palace Master's disciple that lunatic is so close to them? Great Elder murmured and fell into deep thought. Chapter 2146. Saint Peak. N. Look, it's Madman and the others. They actually ran back safe and sound? What's going on? Isn't the evidence conclusive? Could it be that the Great Elder is protecting them again? The return of Qin Feiyang and the others immediately caused a huge uproar in the 10 great Saint Peaks. And soon, it spread to the inner and outer sect. Everyone felt that it was inconceivable. But for this, Qin Feiyang and the others turned a deaf ear and went straight into the first cave abode. Qin Feiyang took out the tender of Qing Hai and the tea leaves given to him by the Vice Pavilion Master. While brewing tea, he smiled and said, Hua Yi, your anger for a beauty is so cool. Indeed. At that time, I was stunned. If I were a woman, would definitely fall in love with you immediately. Mu Tianyang followed. Don't. If you were a woman, you definitely wouldn't be an ordinary stinky one. I don't like you. Hua Yi hurriedly waved his hand with a look of disgust. I said that you're fat, and you're really panting. Mu Tianyang rolled his eyes at him and laughed, but this time, Shengguan Fenglan will definitely be moved by you. Your chance has come. Not necessarily. You guys saw it just now. After knowing my identity, she became a bit distant with me. Hua Yi said with a worried face. Isn't this too sudden? When she recovers, it'll be fine. Speaking of which, you brat hit it really well. You're actually the Vice Palace Master's disciple. While talking, Qin Feiyang also brewed tea and poured it for them one by one. Hua Yi picked up the teacup, glanced at them, put it to his mouth and took a sip, and said, Do you guys really think that I'm the Vice Palace Master's disciple? What do you mean? Qin Feiyang and the other two were stunned. Hua Yi secretly laughed. To tell you the truth, this Palace Master token, I picked it up. Picked it up? The three of them looked at each other. That's right. At that time, I didn't know what this thing was. After I entered the 9 Heavens Palace, I heard from Lan that this is the Vice Palace Master's Palace Master token. Originally, I didn't intend to show it. After all, I picked it up. It's not a legitimate source. But that second elder actually humiliated Lan. How can we tolerate this? So I came up with this idea on the spur of the moment, to pretend to be the Vice Palace Lord's disciple. Hua Yi snickered. Ugh. The three of them were astonished. I'm telling the truth. Believe me. You see, I told you all this in secret, which proves that I'm guilty. Hua Yi transmitted his voice. Who would believe that? Is the Palace Master's token so easy to pick up? If you have the ability, why don't you pick up another one? When you killed Uzijia, could it be that you picked them up? Nonsense. Qin Feiyang and the other two rolled their eyes at Hua Yi. I'm not joking. I'm just telling you the truth. Hua Yi was speechless. All right. Stop pretending. You won't die. Madman waved his hand impatiently and glanced at Gong Zifeng, who was sitting at the side. Gong Zifeng was tasting tea when he felt Madman's gaze. He smiled and asked, "Senior brother Madman, what's wrong? Who told you to sit down? Who told you to drink tea? Do you think this matter is over? If it wasn't for you, would we have gone to jail?" Madman shouted. Gong Zifeng hurriedly stood up. His face was full of panic. Madman said, "Although I haven't had much contact with you, you should know my temper. Yes. I've let you all down. I'm guilty." Gong Zifeng nodded repeatedly. "You think you can settle it with just an apology? There's no such thing in this world. Although I don't know much about the matter between you and Jiang Haotian, I've heard a lot from them in jail. Jiang Haotian has been very kind to you, but you betrayed him again and again? Who dares to trust someone like you?" Madman said. Gong Zifeng said, "I'm sorry. I was really confused, wrong. If it wasn't for Jiang Haotian being suspicious, we would have fallen into your hands this time. You even dared to scheme against me. Did you eat dog guts?" Madman slammed his palm on the coffee table and shouted. Plop. Gong Zifeng was so frightened that he directly knelt on the ground and begged, "Senior brother, spare me. Big brother Jiang, save me. We agreed that after I helped you fight back against Feng Yuan, you would let bygones be bygones. I did say that. Now, I didn't say that I would pursue your responsibility. But I can't represent senior brother Madman and the others. If they want to pursue the matter, I can't stop them." Qin Feiyang said indifferently. Frankly speaking, he already had the intention to kill this person. Gong Zifeng had a helpless look. "Senior brother Madman, he contributed a lot to us being able to escape this time. Why don't we let him go first? In any case, he's now under brother Zhang's control. There's no need to be afraid of him going against us." Hua Yi said with a smile. Madman was silent. There's still some value in keeping him alive. After all, Feng Wenhai and Feng Yuan haven't been eliminated yet. Hua Yi said. Gong Zifeng nodded and said, yes, I can help you." "Help? Are you joking? This time, you changed sides at the last minute. I'm afraid Feng Yuan already hates you to the core. You still dare to go back?" Madman sneered. "Why wouldn't I dare? Now that I have a relationship with senior brother Hua Yi, even if I walk in front of them openly, they won't dare to make a move against me. Maybe they will even worship me like an ancestor." Gong Zifeng said. "That's true." Qin Feiyang nodded. Although Gong Zifeng had killed Yin Hui and Jin Yunchang this time and would definitely arouse the anger of Feng Yuan and Feng Wenhai, Hua Yi was the disciple of the Vice Palace Master. With this relationship, even if they wanted to kill Gong Zifeng, they could only endure it. Madman frowned and looked at Mu Tianyang, asking, "Mu Tianyang, what do you think?" "It doesn't matter. Anyway, he's just a small fry that can be crushed at any time." Mu Tianyang said indifferently. The contempt in his voice was undisguised. However, not only did Gong Zifeng not feel that Mu Tianyang was humiliating him, he even climbed up the bamboo pole and said, yes, I'm just a small fry. To you, I'm not a threat at all. All right. Then this daddy will keep your dog life first. Scram immediately. Madman said. Yes. Gong Zifeng hurriedly got up and ran out in fear, afraid that Madman would regret it. Outside. A large number of disciples rushed over and gathered outside the first sacred peak, discussing. Great Elder must be protecting them in this matter. On what basis? Shouldn't they be punished for making a mistake? If everyone is like them, how can Nine Heavens Palace be fair? Everyone was dissatisfied. Look! It's Gongzi Feng. Gongzi Feng, you should know how Jiang Haotian and the others escaped, right? Tell us quickly. As soon as Gongzi Feng left the cave, he was blocked by everyone. Scram! Gongzi Feng was already angry. Seeing these people talking at once, he naturally didn't have a good expression. Gongzi Feng, what's with your attitude? Although you're Feng Wenhai's son, we're still your senior brothers and sisters, right? Everyone was dissatisfied. Gongzi Feng's face sank. Swish! Suddenly, a woman in a black dress descended on the first sacred peak. She glanced at the chaotic crowd below and shouted, "Quiet, I have something to announce." Everyone looked up. Isn't that Wang Yun? I heard that she has already entered the law enforcement hall, and it was Hall Master Shengguan who personally recruited her. I'm so envious. Wang Yun had worked in the resource hall for many years, so the disciples of Nine Heavens Palace naturally knew her. Wang Yun glanced at the crowd and said loudly, "Under the orders of the hall master, I specially came to announce that Jiang Haotian and the others killed Cheng Li and the others. It was Yu Zijie, Yin Hui, and Jin Yunchang who jointly framed them." What? It's actually a framing? Everyone was dumbfounded. This matter was personally investigated by the first elder, second elder, and the various heads. There's no falsehood or cover-up. As for Yu Zijie, Yin Hui, and Jin Yunchang, they killed Elder Cheng, harmed their fellow disciples, and slandered the innocent disciples. They have already been executed. So, please don't criticize anymore. After Wang Yun finished speaking, she turned into a stream of light and flew towards the stairway to heaven. Because this matter had to be announced to the world. Executed? That means Yu Zijie, Yin Hui, and Jin Yunchang have already been killed? How is that possible? Yin Hui is the law enforcement elder, and Yu Zijie is the disciple of the second elder. How can the first elder bear to kill such people? Regarding Wang Yun's announcement, many people did not dare to believe it. Soon, there was also a notice outside the 4 city gates of Heavenly Dragon City. On the notice was the evil deeds of Yin Hui and the others. I told you, Jiang Haotian is definitely not such a person. You didn't believe me and insisted that he's a hypocrite. Do you see it now? It's all Yin Hui, Jin Yunchang, and Yu Zijie's fault. Bastards! What does the Feng family want? Last time, Feng Wenhai framed Jiang Haotian, and now Yin Hui came out to cause trouble. Is there no end to it? If it were up to me, this Feng clan should be slaughtered, old and young, to prevent them from coming out to harm others. Those who knew the truth were filled with righteous indignation. 1 spread to 10, and 10 spread to 100. Soon, it spread to the entire Sky Dragon City, and then to the entire North region at an unstoppable speed. Finally, Qin Feiyang and the others regained their innocence. As for the Feng family, there were already endless curses, and now it was out of control. Feng Wenhai's home in Sky Dragon City was blocked, and the insults were endless. Some people even threw feces inside. Feng Wenhai hid in his home, and did not even dare to open the door. He could not enter the Empyrean Palace, so he did not know why this happened. Wasn't the plan perfect? Hadn't Jiang Haotian and the others been thrown into prison? But why were the people who were killed now Jin Yunchang, Yin Hui, and Yu Zijie? What had happened in the middle? What are you doing? Suddenly, a cold shout sounded. Feng Zihan appeared in the sky above the courtyard, looking angrily at the crowd gathered around the courtyard. What are we doing? You still have the face to ask? It's not the first time the Feng family has framed Jiang Haotian. What did he do wrong? Why did you treat him so cruelly? Your father is not a good person, and I didn't expect your mother to be a scum too. I'm afraid even you are an accomplice. It's true that people of the same family will not enter the same door. The Feng family is indeed a nest of snakes and rats. The crowd cursed without restraint. Feng Zihan was so angry that her delicate body trembled, but she knew that she could not be angry now. Because the anger of the people was the most terrifying. If she was angry now, it would be difficult to clean up later. You don't need to worry about what kind of people the Feng family is. Feng Zihan said gloomily, and disappeared from the pavilion without looking back. Chapter 2147. You still dare to be arrogant with us? Smash, smash it. Chase them out of Sky Dragon City. Everyone was furious. They picked up the stones and threw them at the courtyard. Not long later, the courtyard was completely unrecognizable, and was extremely chaotic. Inside the house, Feng Wenhai stood in front of the window, looking at the scene through the gap, his hands tightly clenched together. Father. Feng Zihan appeared behind him. Feng Wenhai said angrily, what exactly is going on? Feng Zihan said, as far as I know, it was young noble Feng who betrayed us. That damned little bastard. I told you, he can't be trusted, but you just had to believe him, now look at it. Feng Wenhai roared. At this point, is there any point in saying all this? Feng Zihan sighed. Feng Wenhai asked, where's your mother? Dead. They're all dead. Feng Zihan lowered his head as he spoke, his brow filled with sorrow that could not be dissolved. She's really dead. Feng Wenhai's face turned pale, and his body swayed. Feng Zihan immediately went forward and supported Feng Wenhai. Then where's her body? Feng Wenhai asked. It was taken away by Elder Yun. Feng Zihan said. Feng Wenhai muttered, in extreme pain, is your grandfather okay? Not good. He's still kneeling in the discussion hall. Feng Zihan shook his head. Why is this happening? Even if young noble Feng betrayed us, with Elder Yun and your grandfather's relationship, your mother wouldn't have been killed, right? Feng Wenhai shouted. Feng Zihan said, what exactly happened? I'm not sure either. The great clan elder had ordered Hui's identity to be kept a secret, so no one dared to speak of it. Feng Wenhai, you crazy bastard, get out of Sky Dragon City. Yes. Our Sky Dragon City can't tolerate scum like you. The curses outside continued. Rocks smashed into the courtyard, creating loud bangs. These bastards, they're going too far. The furious Feng Wenhai immediately had a trace of hostility between his eyebrows. Feng Zihan immediately grabbed Feng Wenhai, and said, Father, don't be rash, you can't go out now. They've already bullied us at our doorstep, and you're still telling me not to go out? How am I supposed to face anyone in the future? Feng Wenhai shouted. Father. Feng Zihan immediately shouted coldly, don't you understand the current situation? Our Feng clan is now a target of scorn. Feng Wenhai said, if I were still an enforcement hall elder, would they dare to be so arrogant? The point is, you are no longer one. Indeed, I cannot stay in Heavenly Dragon City any longer. Feng Zihan thought for a while and looked at Feng Wenhai. Father, when I was at Longquan Mountain, I learned the profound meaning of becoming a god and built a small courtyard. You can go there and hide for a while. After that, he sent the coordinates to Feng Wenhai. I'm not leaving. I don't believe that they would dare to kill me in broad daylight. Feng Wenhai said. But before he could finish his words, there was a poochie sound. Sharp arrows pierced through the windows and shot all over the room. Feng Zihan hurriedly brought Feng Wenhai away and said solemnly, did you see that? These people are completely crazy now. They're capable of doing anything. Bastard, bastard. I will kill them sooner or later. Feng Wenhai was infuriated. Let's go. Feng Zihan said. Feng Wenhai's face was filled with unwillingness. You must find young Master Feng for me. I will kill him with my own hands. I will. Feng Zihan nodded. And your mother? Go find Elder Yun. She is a member of our Feng clan. We cannot let her wander outside. Feng Wenhai said. Feng Zihan nodded again. Feng Wenhai said again, tell me immediately if there is a situation. Okay. Feng Zihan replied. Jiang Haotian, just you wait. Everything you have brought to me today, I will return it to you tenfold, 100-fold. Feng Wenhai's face was filled with hatred as he opened an altar and quickly left. Sigh. Feng Zihan looked at the battered building and let out a long sigh before opening an altar and leaving as well. Smash, smash with all your might. We must chase them out of Heavenly Dragon City. The people outside were getting crazier and crazier, and had already broken in. Just after Feng Zihan left, another figure appeared in the building. It was young Master Feng. Looking at the devastated room and the angry crowd outside, his expression was incomparably complicated. Following that, he did not stay, opening an altar and disappearing. At the same time, Treasure Pavilion. Shengguan Qiu sat in front of the desk. A guard stood respectfully in front of her, reporting the contents of the notice. Phew. After listening, Shengguan Qiu let out a long breath, shook her head and smiled. I was worried for nothing. Steward. Why do you care so much about this Jiang Haotian? Could it be that the rumors are true, that you two are lovers? The guard looked at Shengguan Qiu suspiciously. Lovers? Shengguan Qiu was stunned and frowned. There is such a rumor? The guard nodded. Shengguan Qiu smiled helplessly and did not explain. She waved to the guard and said, you may leave. Yes. The guard responded respectfully and turned to leave. Lovers, Shengguan Qiu murmured, shook her head and sighed. Rumors are really fearful. Compared to the chaos outside, the cave abode number 1 of the first sacred peak was exceptionally peaceful. Qin Feiyang and the other 3 sat in the cave abode, drinking tea and chatting, looking extremely comfortable. Mu Tianyang smiled and said, guess what will happen to the Feng family this time? It won't end well anyway. Hua Yi said. Buzz. Before he finished speaking, Qin Feiyang's image crystal rang. Qin Feiyang took it out, and Gong Zifeng's image immediately appeared. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Gong Zifeng said, I just went to the Feng family, and Feng Wenhai is no longer there. No longer there? The 4 of them were stunned. There are many people outside. Listening to their scolding, Feng Wenhai should have been driven away by them. Gong Zifeng said. Mu Tianyang could not help but laugh. How pitiful. Madman sighed. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly as he looked at Gong Zifeng and asked, then do you know where he might have gone? I'm not sure about that. Gong Zifeng shook his head. Qin Feiyang said, you must find him and inform me immediately. Yes. Gong Zifeng nodded. Qin Feiyang turned off the image crystal and looked at Mu Tianyang with a smile. This Feng Wenhai, it's time to get rid of him. I knew you didn't have good intentions when you asked about Feng Wenhai's whereabouts. But now, do we have the strength to do so? Mu Tianyang said. Qin Feiyang turned to look at Madman and asked, Senior Brother Madman, what is Feng Wenhai's cultivation level? As a former law enforcement elder, how can his strength be weak? He's even stronger than me. Madman said. Mu Tianyang's heart trembled as he said in a deep voice, then this is really not easy to deal with. What are you afraid of? Don't forget, we still have a heaven-defying divine artifact. Qin Feiyang sneered. That's true. Mu Tianyang was stunned for a moment before he smiled. But you? Do you want to remove Feng Wenhai's control over you now? Qin Feiyang looked at Mu Tianyang and asked. Not now. Mu Tianyang waved his hand. Brother Mu, are you crazy? You've caused him so much trouble this time, aren't you afraid that he will take revenge on you? Hua Yi said in shock. You're the Vice Palace Master's disciple. With you backing me, how would he dare to take revenge on me? Besides, Yin Hui, Jin Yunchang, Jin Fatso, and Feng Zijuan were killed one after another. Feng Wenhai was expelled from Empyrean Palace. Guyong also betrayed him. Now, only Feng Zihan is left. But Feng Zihan also needs to cultivate. In other words, there's no one by his side to talk to. So, he will definitely not make a move against me. On the contrary, he might care more about me than before. Mu Tianyang smiled. Qin Feiyang asked suspiciously, are you planning something again? What plan? Isn't it just going to the Sky Dragon Sea? Although these things have happened, we still have to go to the Sky Dragon Sea. Mu Tianyang said. Qin Feiyang nodded. Sky Dragon Sea. Hua Yi was stunned and looked at the two suspiciously. Why are you going to the Sky Dragon Sea? Why didn't I know in advance? Mu Tianyang said, we didn't plan to call you, is there a need for you to know? Fuck. Are we still buddies? Hua Yi said angrily. These are two different things. We're going to the Sky Dragon Sea because of personal matters, and we don't want to implicate you. Qin Feiyang smiled. What you said is dignified, but there must be a conspiracy in the dark. Hua Yi sneered. Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang looked at each other and couldn't help but smile bitterly. The next day. Morning. Qin Feiyang trio went to the resource hall to work as usual. As for Lunatic. When he left last night, he actually told Qin Feiyang trio that he was going to cultivate in seclusion. This made the three of them stunned for a long time. But thinking about it, it made sense. He had already wasted 7,000 to 8,000 years of time, and it was indeed time to go into seclusion to cultivate. Junior brother Jiang, junior brother Mu, junior brother Hua, I'm really sorry, I misunderstood you 2 days ago. Yeah. I never thought that this was actually Yu Zijia, Yin Hui, and Jin Yunchang's conspiracy. You guys have been wronged. When Qin Feiyang trio entered the resource hall, the other people in the resource hall immediately rushed up and said with an apologetic face. It's all in the past, it's okay. Qin Feiyang smiled. Hearing this, the others breathed a sigh of relief. After all, they all worked in the resource hall and would see each other frequently. They were afraid that Qin Feiyang trio would be unhappy. One of the young men asked, then how are you guys doing in the prison? Qin Feiyang trio looked at each other and smiled. Hua Yi smiled and said, the treatment in the prison is really good, more comfortable than outside. If there's a chance, you guys can also try it. More comfortable than outside? The few of them looked at each other. Was he talking in his sleep? Which disciple of the Nine Heavens Palace didn't know that the law enforcement hall's prison was 18 levels of hell? Even if they could come out alive, they would lose a layer of skin. Let them try it too. Wasn't this asking them to court death? Sure enough, they were not on the same level as these three. Chapter 2148. Qin Feiyang glanced at the second floor and asked in a low voice, is the palace master upstairs? No. They shook their heads. Qin Feiyang nodded thoughtfully, then smiled and said, let's get back to work. After they dispersed, Qin Feiyang and the other two also sat down at their respective positions. Qin Feiyang sorted out the account book and asked secretly, Mu Tianyang, it's been so long, is there any news about the vein of soul? No. I didn't dare to deliberately mention the vein of soul, afraid that Feng Yuan would notice something. So I've been looking for an opportunity. Mu Tianyang secretly said. You're right to be concerned. But we have to hurry. Qin Feiyang said. Understood. Mu Tianyang responded. An entire day passed, but Feng Yuan still didn't come to the resource hall. Qin Feiyang and the other two's work had finished. Mu Tianyang frowned and said, is he still kneeling in the assembly hall? I don't know. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Hua Yi secretly said, why don't we go to the assembly hall to take a look? Is the assembly hall a place where we can go as we please? Qin Feiyang immediately rolled his eyes at him. That's not right. We can't go there. But Brother Hua, no one dares to stop you now. Mu Tianyang secretly laughed. Qin Feiyang was taken aback and said with a smile, that's true, after all, things are different now. Why do I feel so awkward, are you guys making fun of me? Hua Yi frowned. No, you're the disciple of the Deputy Palace Master, we can't afford to offend you. Qin Feiyang laughed and said. I've already said, I'm a fake. Forget it. I'm not going to talk nonsense with you guys, I'm going to find Lan, a day without seeing her is like 3 years. Hua Yi chuckled and then disappeared like a wisp of smoke. There's no humanity when there's a opposite sex. Mu Tianyang said in disdain. You're just jealous, aren't you? Qin Feiyang said. What am I jealous of? Mu Tianyang was filled with disdain. Qin Feiyang looked at him and sighed, Shen Mei's death is indeed a pity, but you can't always live in the past. But as soon as his voice fell, Qin Feiyang felt the change in Mu Tianyang's eyes. Don't mention her in front of me in the future, because it will remind me of my hatred for you. Mu Tianyang said with a gloomy voice, then transformed into a beam of light and disappeared without looking back. Alas! Looking at Mu Tianyang's back, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but let out a long sigh. He also went straight back to his cave and went into seclusion to cultivate. Over the next few days, Feng Yuan did not appear. Hua Yi also learned from Shengguan Fenglan that Feng Yuan and a group of big shots had already left the great meeting hall that night. If he wasn't in the conference hall, nor did he come to the resource hall, then where was he now? Wait a minute. Was he with Feng Wenhai? Just as Qin Feiyang was lost in his thoughts, he suddenly felt an ice-cold gaze. Qin Feiyang looked up and saw a red-haired old man standing at the door, staring at him gloomily. It was Feng Yuan. Greetings, Palace Master. The others quickly noticed Feng Yuan and hurriedly got up to salute. Feng Yuan turned a deaf ear to them. He glanced at Qin Feiyang and Hua Yi, then looked at Mu Tianyang and said, come up. After that, he went to the second floor without looking back. The Palace Master doesn't seem to be in a good mood. Isn't that nonsense? Yin Hui and Jin Yunchang did this kind of thing, how could he be happy? Several disciples whispered. Hua Yi secretly said, Brother Mu, be careful. If there's anything, just shout. We'll go up to support you at any time. Qin Feiyang also secretly said. Mu Tianyang smiled. Second floor. In the lounge. Feng Yuan sat in front of the tea table with a gloomy face. Mu Tianyang swaggered in and closed the door behind him. He did not salute, nor did he have the respect from before, and directly sat down opposite Feng Yuan. Seeing this, Feng Yuan raised his eyebrows and said, did this old man ask you to sit? Mu Tianyang said indifferently, isn't this chair for people to sit on? Otherwise, it would look good? Pa! Feng Yuan immediately slammed his palm on the tea table and shouted, with Hua Yi backing you up, you're being impudent? Yes. I'm being impudent. What's wrong? Mu Tianyang's face was full of provocation. Feng Yuan said sternly, don't forget, your little life is still in this old man's hands. Then why don't you kill me? Do you dare? Mu Tianyang sneered. Feng Yuan clenched his hands, his eyes as sharp as a blade. Don't stare at me like that, you asked for it. Originally, I really wanted to help you get rid of Jiang Haotian, but what about you? You're actually trying to frame me. If it weren't for Jiang Haotian's resourcefulness, would have died in your hands this time. Mu Tianyang said. What a joke. You dare to say that Feng Zijuan was not killed by you and Jiang Haotian? Feng Yuan shouted. You even believed Gong Zifeng's words, you're really stupid. Let me tell you the truth, Gong Zifeng has already surrendered to Jiang Haotian. Mu Tianyang sneered. What? Surrendered to Jiang Haotian long ago? Feng Yuan was shocked. Is it strange? Jiang Haotian is a very good schemer. He knows that it's not easy to deal with you. After all, your strength is too strong, so he bribed Gong Zifeng and made him his spy. Mu Tianyang said. Damn it! Why didn't you tell me earlier? Feng Yuan said angrily. I'm sorry. I only heard this from Jiang Haotian when I was in prison. Besides, this matter has nothing to do with you framing me. Tell me the truth. I'm so loyal to you, but you want to harm me. A person like you is really not worthy of serving. Mu Tianyang shook his head. Feng Yuan fell silent. Mu Tianyang got up and said, Is there anything else? If there's nothing else, I'll go to work. Sit down. Feng Yuan said. Didn't you not let me sit just now? Mu Tianyang said with a playful smile. I told you to sit down. Feng Yuan said word by word, already on the verge of exploding in anger. Okay. Mu Tianyang nodded and returned to his seat, saying, Go ahead, I'll listen. Feng Yuan asked, When did you know Hui's identity? Mu Tianyang said, The same as you. What about Jiang Haotian and Frenzy? Feng Yuan asked. Mu Tianyang said, I only found out when I was in the Great Council Hall. Feng Yuan frowned and said, You have such a good relationship with him, have you asked him in private if he is the disciple of the Vice Palace Master? How can this be fake? The Vice Palace Master is such a powerful existence, who would have the guts to pretend to be his disciple? Mu Tianyang was speechless. That makes sense. Feng Yuan nodded, pondered for a while, and said, Then did Hui tell the Vice Palace Master what I did to Jiang Haotian? Mu Tianyang said, Didn't he say it in the Great Council Hall? Not yet. Feng Yuan said, That's just polite words. Mu Tianyang said, We asked in private, but we really haven't told the Vice Palace Master yet. Feng Yuan breathed a sigh of relief. But immediately after, a wisp of killing intent appeared in his old eyes. Mu Tianyang's pupils contracted. Could it be that he wanted to kill Hui? Wanted to silence him? This old thing is too crazy. One had to know that Hui was the disciple of the Vice Palace Master. Killing Hui would anger the Vice Palace Master. But thinking about it, it didn't seem to be a big deal. Thinking back, this old thing even dared to kill the Great Elder's own son, let alone Hui, a disciple who had no blood relationship with him. Feng Yuan was silent for a moment, then looked at Mu Tianyang and said, Help this old man do something. After it is done, not only will this old man remove my control over you, but I will also officially train you as the next hall master of the resource hall. Mu Tianyang said, If you want to silence Hui, then there's no need to talk about it. Feng Yuan was slightly taken aback, frowning, You actually guessed it. Who do you think you can hide your thoughts from? Mu Tianyang said indifferently. Fine. This old man admits that this old man wants you to kill him to silence him. If you think this old man's conditions are not enough, feel free to speak. Feng Yuan said. Really? Mu Tianyang asked. Feng Yuan nodded. Mu Tianyang pondered for a moment and said, I want to know where the 9 Heavens Palace's soul vein is. Feng Yuan was taken aback and asked suspiciously, why are you asking about the soul vein? Since entering 9 Heavens Palace, I have always heard that our 9 Heavens Palace's soul vein occupies half of the entire northern territory. I want to know if this is true. And I have never seen a real soul vein, so I am very curious. Of course, this is an additional condition. What I want the most is a spatial divine object. Mu Tianyang said. In this way, Feng Yuan would not be suspicious. Spatial divine object? That's very simple. Not to mention one, this old man can find 10 spatial divine objects for you. Feng Yuan smiled confidently. Qin Feiyang said, don't be so confident. I am talking about a spatial divine object with a time array. What? Feng Yuan suddenly stood up. I know, this is a little hard for you to accept. But compared to this kind of worldly possession, your life is the most important. If Hua Yi really tells the Vice Palace Master what you have done during this period of time, do you think you will still have a way to live? I am afraid not only you, but even Feng Zihan will be implicated. Mu Tianyang said playfully. Feng Yuan's eyes sank and said, don't think that you can beat this old man just because you have some chips in your hand. This old man doesn't need your help. If I want to kill Hua Yi, I still have a way. Then go. Let me tell you, Hua Yi and Jiang Haotian have already guessed that you might kill them to silence them, so they are always on guard against you. Mu Tianyang said. Already guessed? Feng Yuan raised his eyebrows. How about it? Are you willing to give up your wealth or your life? Don't tell me you can't find a spatial divine object with a time array. No one will believe this kind of nonsense. Mu Tianyang said. Feng Yuan was silent. I won't disturb you for now. You can think about it by yourself. Mu Tianyang said, then got up and walked towards the door. Wait. Feng Yuan said. The corner of Mu Tianyang's mouth lifted, then he turned to look at Feng Yuan. Feng Yuan said, this old man can indeed find such a spatial divine object, but I will give it to you after the matter is done. Impossible. After the matter is done, what value do I have? At that time, I am afraid I will become the target of your silencing. I won't do this kind of loss-making business. Mu Tianyang shook his head. Chapter 2149. Feng Yuan frowned and said, but if I give it to you first, how can I believe that you won't betray me? Wait. Have you gone senile? My life is now in your hands, and you're still afraid that I'll betray you? Mu Tianyang was stunned. Feng Yuan was stunned when he heard that. That's right, this person was now under his control. No matter how bold he was, he wouldn't dare to betray him. Why don't I give it to him first and kill him after the matter is done? At that time, won't the spatial divine item come back? In other words, it was only for him to temporarily keep it. No matter what the result was, this person had to die. Thinking of this, Feng Yuan didn't hesitate anymore. As he waved his hand, a golden palace appeared out of thin air. Mu Tianyang stared at the palace, his eyes shining. The palace was the size of a palm and only had one floor. It seemed to be made of gold and shone brightly. Feng Yuan said, this thing is called the Golden Crow Temple. It can be big or small, and there is a time array inside. Golden Crow Temple, Mu Tianyang muttered and asked, how many days is one day? Feng Yuan said, 1 day is half a year. Half a year? Mu Tianyang frowned and couldn't help but feel disappointed. In Qin Feiyang's castle, one day was equivalent to 1 year. In the Golden Crow Temple, 1 day was equivalent to half a year, which was double. If this continued, the gap between him and Qin Feiyang would grow bigger and bigger. But it was better than nothing. Although it couldn't compare to Qin Feiyang's castle, it was better than the crimson gold divine tower. Forget it, I'll reluctantly accept it. Mu Tianyang comforted himself. This old man can give you the Golden Crow Temple, but you must remember not to let anyone know about it, let alone let anyone see it. Especially our 9 Heavens Palace's Great Elder. Otherwise, this divine item will bring you a fatal disaster. Feng Yuan warned with a serious expression. So serious? Mu Tianyang was bewildered. Feng Yuan said in a deep voice, it's more serious than what I said. Once the Golden Crow Temple is exposed, you will die for sure. Mu Tianyang's eyes flickered. Especially the Great Elder? Why did Feng Yuan say that? Could it be that the Golden Crow Temple had something to do with the First Elder? Wait a minute. First Elder's son was killed by Feng Yuan. Could it be, the original owner of the Golden Crow Temple was the Great Elder's son? At the thought of this, Mu Tianyang suddenly felt that the Golden Crow Temple was like a hot potato. However, he didn't care either. So what if he was the First Elder's son? As long as it was in his hands, no one could take it back. Mu Tianyang stepped forward, grabbed the Golden Crow Temple, and dripped his blood on it to claim ownership. At the same time, Feng Yuan erased the blood contract inside. Very soon. Master recognition complete. Mu Tianyang played with it for a while, then put it away. Feng Yuan said, I've already given you the item. Now, tell me your plan. It's still the original plan. But this time, I have to add Hua Yi. Mu Tianyang laughed. Feng Yuan said, can you get rid of Madman for this old man as well? Get rid of Madman? You must be joking. Madman is a half-step supreme god, and he is currently in closed-door cultivation. How can I call him? Mu Tianyang said. Feng Yuan laughed, I believe you will have a way. This, Mu Tianyang pondered for a while, and sighed, all right, I'll try my best, but I can't guarantee that I can do it. Feng Yuan nodded. Mu Tianyang asked, then I'll go and arrange it? The sooner the better. Feng Yuan said. All right, I'll bring them into the Sky Dragon Sea tomorrow, wait for my good news. Mu Tianyang smiled, then turned and left. I'll let you be proud for a while. Feng Yuan looked at Mu Tianyang's back view, and secretly sneered. First floor. Seeing Mu Tianyang come down with a happy face, Qin Feiyang and Hua Yi looked at each other, and thought, seems like something good happened? Of course. Everything is as I expected. Mu Tianyang smiled proudly, and thought, do you know the Golden Crow Temple? Golden Crow Temple? Qin Feiyang was stunned, and shook his head, I don't know. What is it? Hua Yi looked at Mu Tianyang curiously. A spatial divine object. And it's a spatial divine object with a time array. Feng Yuan gave it to me. The rules of time, 1 day is equal to half a year. Mu Tianyang thought. Damn. You're taking advantage of me. No, everyone has a share. Hua Yi was shocked. How do we split it? Split it in half for you, half for me? Mu Tianyang rolled his eyes. That works too. Hua Yi nodded. Get lost. Mu Tianyang glared at him. Qin Feiyang frowned, and thought, things aren't that simple. Is there a need to think about it? He paid such a huge price, he must have an ulterior motive. Mu Tianyang sighed. What ulterior motive? Hua Yi was suspicious. Mu Tianyang said, he asked me to kill you and Frenzy. This old thing still doesn't know how to stop. Hua Yi cursed. He also wants to stop, but he doesn't dare. You're a ticking time bomb, sooner or later you'll crush him to pieces. How can he not think of a way to get rid of you? I also agreed. Tomorrow, we'll leave for the Sky Dragon Sea. And he also promised me that after the matter is done, he will tell me the location of the soul vein. Mu Tianyang thought. Soul vein. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, but suddenly he seemed to have thought of something, and glanced at Hua Yi. Why are you looking at me? Hua Yi was puzzled. Qin Feiyang said, You're the disciple of the Vice Palace Master, you won't report us, right? I already said that I'm an imposter, why don't you believe me? Soul vein, is it? Don't worry, when the time comes, we'll take action together and not leave a single one of them. Hua Yi said domineeringly. Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang looked at each other and asked, You're not acting with us, right? My mood, we've been together for so long, I basically know what you guys have done. If I'm really the disciple of the Vice Palace Master, you guys would have been finished long ago. How can you stand here so easily and talk to me? Hua Yi looked helpless. Qin Feiyang thought, Mu Tianyang, he can't really be an imposter, right? Don't be careless, this person is unfathomable, it's better to be careful. Mu Tianyang transmitted his voice. Qin Feiyang nodded without leaving a trace. Mu Tianyang thought again, by the way, when you have time, ask the Vice Palace Master if he knows about the Golden Crow Temple. Why ask him? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. You'll understand when you ask. The question now is Frenzy willing to go to the Sky Dragon Sea? Mu Tianyang thought. This question, why don't we let Hua Yi go? After all, his face is bigger than ours now. Qin Feiyang said. Yes. The identity of the Vice Palace Master's disciple can't be wasted in vain. Mu Tianyang patted his head and then looked at Hua Yi. Qin Feiyang also looked at Hua Yi again. Why are you looking at me again? Hua Yi was very depressed. The two smiled and secretly said, There's something I need your help with, at night. The waning moon hung in the sky, decorated with cold stars. St. Peak. Inside the first cave abode. Qin Feiyang stood on the ground and looked at a shadow in the void in front of him. He cupped his hands and said, Greetings, old senior. It was an old man. He held a walking stick in his hand and had a kind face. Little friend, this old man has already heard about what happened a few days ago. This time, you have survived a great disaster and will definitely have good fortune in the future. The old man was the Vice Palace Master of the Treasure Pavilion. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Thank you, old senior, for your auspicious words. The Vice Palace Master asked, Little friend, are you looking for this old man for any medicinal herbs? That's not it. This junior's message is to ask old senior if you know of a spatial divine object called the Golden Crow Temple. Qin Feiyang said. Golden Crow Temple. As soon as the Vice Palace Master heard these 4 words, his expression and tone changed, bringing with it a sharp edge that could penetrate one's heart. Qin Feiyang said, It seems that old senior knows about this Golden Crow Temple. How do you know about the Golden Crow Temple? The Vice Palace Master asked. I just found out today. Old senior, may I ask what the origin of this Golden Crow Temple is? Qin Feiyang said. The Vice Palace Master pondered for a long time and sighed, The owner of the Golden Crow Temple is the Great Elder's son. What? It's actually him. Qin Feiyang was shocked. Could it be that Mu Tianyang would say that he would understand after asking the Vice Palace Master? It's just that back then, after the Great Elder's son died, the Golden Crow Temple disappeared. This old man still remembers that the Grand Elder came to question this old man if it was this old man who snatched the Golden Crow Shrine away. But I really didn't. I also personally went to the Sky Dragon Sea to look for it, but I found nothing. The Vice Palace Master sighed. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization. The Vice Palace Master said in surprise, "Little friend, you suddenly mentioned the Golden Crow Temple. Do you have news about the Golden Crow Temple?" Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "The Golden Crow Temple has always been in Feng Yuan's hands." What? In his hands? The Vice Palace Master was originally sitting in the armchair, but after hearing Qin Feiyang's words, he immediately stood up and his eyes flashed with a cold light. Yes. However, just this morning, he gave the Golden Crow Temple to Mu Tianyang. Qin Feiyang said. To Mu Tianyang? He's willing to give up such a precious space divine item? The Vice Palace Master was surprised. There's a reason behind it. As for the reason, it's not convenient for me to reveal it now. Please forgive me. Qin Feiyang said. It's fine. I won't force you to answer a question that you don't want to answer. The Vice Palace Master waved his hand and returned to his seat. He lowered his head and pondered for a while, then said, "So, what you said to me back then was true. It was true from the beginning. Of course, I also know that you won't believe it easily. After all, it's just my words, and there's no evidence. However, the appearance of the Golden Crow Temple has undoubtedly confirmed this point." Qin Feiyang said with a smile. This Feng Yuan is really bold. Chapter 2150. Qin Feiyang hurriedly said, "Senior, please calm down. I didn't believe you before because I didn't have evidence, but now that the evidence is irrefutable, how can I not be angry? This crippled leg, and all the grievances I've suffered all these years, I'll make him pay for them one by one." The Vice Pavilion Master shouted, a trace of viciousness creeping up between his brows. "Senior, please calm down first. Even if the Golden Crow Temple appears, it won't be able to sentence Feng Yuan to death." Qin Feiyang said. The Vice Pavilion Master was slightly taken aback and frowned. "What do you mean? Feng Yuan is an old fox. Even if you come to Nine Heavens Palace and tell the Great Elder the truth, Feng Yuan will definitely not admit it. He can say that he took the Golden Crow Temple for himself because of a moment of greed. If Feng Yuan refuses to admit it, what can we do to him? There's nothing we can do. In the end, the Great Elder can only take back the Golden Crow Temple and punish Feng Yuan. After the punishment, he will still be as carefree as before. The most important thing is, once he knows that we are investigating him, he will be more careful in the future. He will even immediately erase all traces of this matter. At that time, it will be even more difficult for us to find evidence." Qin Feiyang said. Hearing this, the Vice Pavilion Master slowly calmed down and nodded. "What you said makes sense. I was foolish just now. Understandable. After all, I have been wronged for so many years. If it were me, I would have done the same." Qin Feiyang smiled. "Then I'll leave this matter to you. If you need anything, just say it. I will do my best to help you," the Vice Pavilion Master said. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Junior will definitely clear Senior's name." "Thank you," the Vice Pavilion Master said gratefully. "Senior has taken care of me during this period, so this is what I should do. There's no need to thank me. However, I really want something," Qin Feiyang said. "What is it?" The Vice Pavilion Master was suspicious. "Chaos Origin Divine Art," Qin Feiyang said. "Primordial God Technique?" The Vice Pavilion Master was stunned. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. The Vice Pavilion Master asked, "Do you know the cultivation conditions of the Chaos Divine Art?" "I know. The first time I entered the Treasure Pavilion, I saw the Chaos Origin Divine Art. Only those who have born inner demons can cultivate it," Qin Feiyang said. "Then what do you want the Chaos Divine Art for?" "Wait. Don't tell me you have inner demons? The vice pavilion master was bewildered. Qin Feiyang sighed. To be honest, I did have inner demons in the past. The deputy pavilion lord stared at Qin Feiyang, dumbfounded. In the past, not only did I have inner demons, I also had a very good relationship with the inner demons. We live in peace and depend on each other. We are like twins. But good times don't last long. Later on, in order to save me, he sacrificed himself. Qin Feiyang sighed, and the space between his brows was suffused with dense sorrow. It's really hard to imagine that there is such a benevolent and righteous inner demons in this world. The vice pavilion lord sighed. If it came from someone else, he would definitely not believe it. But he felt that Qin Feiyang would not lie to him. Qin Feiyang sighed faintly. In this life, I owe him too much, and I can't repay him. Since the inner demons have already sacrificed themselves, the Chaos Origin divine art is meaningless to you. What do you want it for? The vice pavilion lord asked. I don't know either. Since the first time I saw the Chaos Origin divine art, my heart has always yearned for it. Qin Feiyang said in confusion. The yearning of the heart, the vice pavilion lord murmured and sighed. You probably can't let go of the inner demons, and you have never wanted to admit the death of the inner demons, so this yearning appeared. I really can't let go. I'm even wondering if he's not dead yet. Maybe he's waiting for me somewhere. But I know that it's impossible. I'm very confused. Qin Feiyang said. I didn't expect your feelings for the inner demons to be so deep. The vice pavilion lord sighed and pondered for a while before saying, how about this, when you're free, come to the treasure pavilion, and I'll ask little Chiu to give you the Chaos Origin divine art. Thank you, senior. Qin Feiyang hurriedly bowed and thanked him. But you have to remember, this Chaos Origin divine art is given to you, and you can't give it to anyone. Unless the other party has the inner demons. The vice pavilion lord reminded. Qin Feiyang stared blankly for a moment before he said, Senior, pardon me for asking, but is your treasure pavilion specially looking for people with inner demons? How so? The vice pavilion lord looked at Qin Feiyang curiously. Qin Feiyang said, because the Chaos Origin divine art is sold at zero price, which is obviously not the style of a businessman. Young friend, you're really smart. The vice pavilion lord looked at Qin Feiyang with appreciation and nodded. That's right, the treasure pavilion is indeed looking for people with the inner demons. Why? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. The vice pavilion lord smiled apologetically. This matter is related to a big shot, so I can't say much. Please forgive me. Big shot? Qin Feiyang was shocked. This big shot had extraordinary significance. Because an existence like the vice pavilion lord was already a big shot standing at the top of the pyramid. But at this moment, there was actually a big shot that even the vice pavilion lord had to call a big shot. The vice pavilion lord was such a powerful existence, so how terrifying was the big shot he mentioned? Coming back to his senses. Qin Feiyang hurriedly asked, since it's related to a big shot, then if you give me the Chaos Origin divine art now, how will you explain it to him? I will explain your situation to him. I believe he will definitely understand. The vice pavilion lord smiled. As long as I don't cause trouble for you, I'm relieved. Qin Feiyang said. I won't. The vice pavilion lord waved his hand and asked, I wonder if you have any plans now? Qin Feiyang said, is it to deal with Feng Yuan? The vice pavilion lord nodded. I do have a plan. Mu Tianyang, Frenzy, Hua Yi, and I will go to the deepest part of the Sky Dragon Sea tomorrow. This may be a life and death battle. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. The deepest part of the Sky Dragon Sea? The vice pavilion lord was shocked and hurriedly said, the Sky Dragon Sea is not an ordinary dangerous place, especially the deepest part. Even I don't dare to step into it. You kids, are you courting death? Although it has something to do with Feng Yuan, there are also reasons why we have to go. Qin Feiyang said. What is the reason that you have to go? The Vice Pavilion Lord frowned. This, Qin Feiyang hesitated. If you don't want to say, I won't force you. But I still hope that you can think about it carefully. This is not child's play. You will lose your life. If you insist on going, then come to the treasure pavilion now and look for little Chiu. The Vice Pavilion Lord said. Look for her for what? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. You will know when you come. The Vice Pavilion Lord said. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, all right, I will go to the treasure pavilion immediately. It seems that you really insist on going to the Sky Dragon Sea. I have to say that it is good to be young. You can do whatever you want. But to be honest, I still admire young people like you who dare to take risks. The Vice Pavilion Lord shook his head and smiled. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. If it weren't for the fact that he was looking for his ancestor, he wouldn't be willing to take this risk. After turning off the image crystal, Qin Feiyang immediately set off and rushed to the treasure pavilion. Jiang Haotian, stop right there. But when Qin Feiyang walked down the sky stairway and was about to open the altar, a shout suddenly sounded from the mountain stream below. It was a woman's voice. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He walked to the edge of the cliff and looked down, only to see a chubby woman rising into the air aggressively. She was no longer fat. She was at least 200 to 300 pounds and was full of fat. Obviously, she was extremely ugly. Bam! The woman landed on the mountain peak and the ground shook. You are? Qin Feiyang looked at the fat woman suspiciously. But the fat woman stared at Qin Feiyang without saying a word. Her eyes were full of hatred. That's ridiculous. Qin Feiyang shook his head and opened the altar. Boom! But then, the fat woman took a step forward and smashed the altar with a punch. Then, she threw another punch at Qin Feiyang. Divine power surged and the void shook. A war god of perfection? Qin Feiyang frowned and immediately raised his hand and threw a punch. Boom! The fat woman was directly sent flying and smashed onto the ground in a sorry state. Who are you? Have I offended you? Qin Feiyang said angrily. He had never seen this woman before. Cut the crap. Give me back the lives of my son and husband. The fat woman roared and rushed toward Qin Feiyang like a mad beast. Son? Husband? What the hell is this? When did I kill your son and husband? Qin Feiyang dodged and asked suspiciously. How long has it been since Jin Yunchang died? Have you forgotten? The fat woman roared. With a clang, a broadsword appeared. It was as wide as a palm and was golden in color. It was a peak-level divine artifact. Jin Yunchang? Qin Feiyang looked at the fat woman in astonishment. So, this woman is Feng Yuan's daughter? Jin Fatso's mother? The corner of his mouth twitched. This woman was not someone that an ordinary man could handle. Jin Yunchang was a talented man. If it weren't for the power of the Feng family, he wouldn't have married this woman. No wonder everyone said that Jin Yunchang was a man who lived off a woman. But frankly speaking, he was quite impressed with Jin Yunchang. He sacrificed so much in order to get close to the Feng family. Little bastard, go to hell. The fat woman roared and grabbed the broadsword. Divine power surged into the broadsword and the broadsword immediately came to life. Then, she slashed at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang frowned and quickly dodged. Then, he glanced at the old man sitting next to the stairway. The old man didn't open his eyes. Was this a tacit agreement? Could he do whatever he wanted? Just as Qin Feiyang was wondering, the fat woman slashed at him again. Qin Feiyang stepped back and said angrily, "Are the people of the Feng family all so unreasonable? It was Fatso and Jin Yunchang who provoked me first. I was just. Cut the crap. You must die today." The fat woman roared. Chapter 2151. You're unreasonable. Qin Feiyang also lost his patience. Although he shouldn't implicate his wife and children, this woman was the one who came to his door first, so there was no need to be polite. Moreover, there was a peak-level divine artifact, so he couldn't miss it. Boom! The aura of a perfect war god was fully unleashed. Qin Feiyang didn't dodge anymore, and took the initiative to attack. The Xing character art was used to the extreme, like a ghost, the fat woman almost couldn't catch his trace. As the daughter of Feng Yuan, the fat woman naturally had a lot of trump cards. For example, the support divine arts were all perfect level. However, in front of the Xing character art, perfect level support divine arts were like an adult and a baby, completely not on the same level. In less than 10 breaths, Qin Feiyang found an opportunity, a wisp of blood flew out and instantly cut off the fat woman's arm. And it was the arm that was holding the broadsword. Blood splattered in the sky. The fat woman covered her wound and screamed. However, Qin Feiyang didn't pay attention to her. He quickly dived down and grabbed the broadsword. "Don't even think about it." The fat woman roared angrily and wanted to take back the broadsword. "Sorry, once something is in my hands, you won't have the chance to take it back." Qin Feiyang grinned and directly sent the broadsword to the castle. The fat woman also instantly felt that she had lost contact with the broadsword. "You deserve to die." This made her almost crazy. Ignoring the wound on her shoulder, she angrily pounced at Qin Feiyang. "Why don't you know how to restrain yourself?" Qin Feiyang sighed. In the blink of an eye, a wisp of blood flew into the fat woman's forehead like lightning. Her soul was immediately destroyed. Ah! Accompanied by a shrill scream, the fat woman suddenly smashed into the mountain peak like a huge rock, and died. Ant! It was also at this moment. An anxious cry of grief sounded. Qin Feiyang frowned. This was really strange. After killing one, another one came. He turned around and saw a woman flying through the air toward him. The woman was tall and beautiful. She wore a pure black dress with a small white flower on her chest. She looked like she was in mourning. And she was Feng Zihan. And Feng Zihan flew over and landed beside the fat woman, calling out softly. Qin Feiyang glanced at Feng Zihan and took out a teleportation altar. "Stop!" Feng Zihan suddenly shouted, standing up and staring at Qin Feiyang, his eyes filled with killing intent. Qin Feiyang said indifferently, "It's not my fault. She came to kill me first." "So you killed her?" Feng Zihan said furiously. "What a joke. She came to kill me, so why can't I kill her? Am I supposed to stand here and let her slaughter me?" Qin Feiyang sneered. Feng Zihan was silent for a while, then said word by word, "Blood for blood." Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. Each one was more unreasonable than the other. Suddenly, the white-haired old man sitting beside the heaven stairway said, "Feng Zihan, Jiang Haotian was indeed defending himself." "Did you hear that?" Qin Feiyang snorted coldly. Feng Zihan's face was gloomy. Suddenly, she turned to look at the white-haired old man and bowed, "Senior, all along, as long as the people of Nine Heavens Palace leave Nine Heavens Palace, no matter what. You won't ask. Are you sure you want to do this?" The white-haired old man asked, his eyes still closed. "I'm sure." Feng Zihan nodded. "Up to you." The white-haired old man said indifferently and then fell silent. Schwa. Feng Zihan turned around again and looked at Qin Feiyang, saying, "Come, let me see how capable you are. Coming early is better than coming at the right time." How lively. Suddenly, a mocking laugh sounded. Qin Feiyang raised his head and saw Madman walking down the heaven stairway step by step. He asked in surprise, "Weren't you in closed-door cultivation? Isn't it all because of that Hui?" He came over and said a bunch of nonsense to this father, making this father a little annoyed, so I ran out to relax. I didn't expect to meet you guys. What a coincidence. Stinking woman, what are you trying to do? Madman looked at Feng Zihan and asked. Feng Zihan frowned her beautiful brows, saying, "This is a matter between me and Jiang Haotian, don't interfere." That won't do. The reason this father was able to come out of the prison alive was all because of Jiang Haotian. This father is a person who values friendship the most. If he is in trouble, how can this father just sit by and do nothing? Moreover, your mother harmed this father also wants to have a good chat with you. After Madman finished speaking, he stepped in front of Qin Feiyang and said with a faint smile, "Go busy yourself." "Thank you, senior brother." Qin Feiyang smiled. He opened the altar and jumped up without looking back. "Stop right there." Feng Zihan shouted coldly and instantly appeared behind Madman, sending a palm towards the teleportation altar. But at the same time, Madman grabbed Feng Zihan's wrist and said unhappily, "Can you not treat this father like air? Let go." Feng Zihan shouted. "All right." Madman grinned and a huge force appeared in his palm. Feng Zihan was sent flying as a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth. "You," Feng Zihan angrily stared at Madman. "Why don't we spar again? But let me say this in advance, this father won't go easy on you." Madman's lips curled into a playful smile. Feng Zihan looked at Madman and then at Qin Feiyang, only to see that Qin Feiyang was about to disappear. Schwa. With another flash, she charged towards Qin Feiyang. "You really don't put this father in your eyes." Madman's face also showed a trace of anger. His half-step immortal aura surged toward Feng Zihan like an avalanche. Poof! Feng Zihan was sent flying again as blood poured out of her mouth. At the same time, Qin Feiyang completely disappeared. The teleportation altar also disintegrated and dissipated. "Madman, you bastard, you actually hurt me again and again for someone you just met." Feng Zihan was furious. Madman said helplessly, "If you could be more honest, would this father hurt you?" Twisting words and forcing logic. "You want to spar? Okay. I'll accompany you today." With a boom, Feng Zihan's aura was released and she was close to Madman's. "Not bad. Your cultivation has improved a bit." Madman chuckled. "Stop grinning at me." Feng Zihan coldly snorted, suddenly raising her arm, her jade finger pointing in the air. Boom! A destructive aura suddenly appeared out of nowhere like the eruption of a volcano. Annihilation Divine Finger. Madman's pupils constricted as he shouted, "Are you serious? Do I look like I'm joking?" Feng Zihan shouted. "What a crazy woman." Madman shook his head but didn't counterattack. He just dodged. As for the white-haired old man, he didn't even look at her from beginning to end and seemed extremely calm. The treasure pavilion had already closed. But there were still 2 guards guarding the door. When Qin Feiyang arrived at the treasure pavilion, the 2 guards immediately bowed and said, "Young Master Jiang, the manager has been waiting for you inside for a long time." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded and pushed the door open. He saw a beautiful woman standing in the middle of the hall. There was only the woman in the entire hall and it was very quiet. It was Shengguan Qiu. Qin Feiyang closed the door behind him and said with a smile, "I'm sorry, something happened on the way and I've kept you waiting. Shangguan Qiu was stunned and frowned. What happened? Feng Yuan's daughter. This family is really difficult to deal with. Qin Feiyang shook his head. So many people have died, but they still don't know how to restrain themselves. It seems that the Feng family is hopeless. Shangguan Qiu shook her head and sighed. She took out a jade box and handed it to Qin Feiyang. This is what you want. Qin Feiyang took the jade box and opened it to take a look. He saw a jade slip lying quietly inside. Chaos Divine Technique, Qin Feiyang murmured as he grabbed the jade slip. His divine consciousness sank into it, and a trace of melancholy crept up between his brows. Shangguan Qiu said, the deputy pavilion master has already told me about the inner demons. To be honest, I'm really surprised. Surprised? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. Normally, only those who are particularly vicious will give birth to inner demons. As for you, although we haven't known each other for long, I can see that you're not that kind of ruthless devil. Your state of mind is also very good. How did you give birth to inner demons? Shangguan Qiu was suspicious. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. The state of mind is tempered. Tempered? Shangguan Qiu frowned. Did this person also have an unbearable past? But it didn't look like it. Qin Feiyang put away the jade slip and didn't continue the topic. The deputy pavilion master asked me to come to the treasure pavilion to look for you, not just to ask you to give me the chaos divine technique, right? Yes, there's something else. And it's a supreme treasure. Shangguan Qiu nodded and took out another item from his interspatial ring. It was a 1-meter-long animal skin roll. Its surface was slightly yellow and looked very old. See for yourself. Feng Zihan handed the animal skin roll over to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang grabbed the animal skin roll and then slowly opened it. He saw that there were lines drawn on it. Each line had a different mark. This is, Qin Feiyang looked at it carefully for a moment, and the confusion in his eyes grew. He looked up at Shangguan Qiu and asked, this looks like a map. Yes. This is a map. And it's a map of the Sky Dragon Sea. Shangguan Qiu said. What? Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. He looked down at the animal skin roll again, and the excitement on his face could not be concealed. It was a map of the Sky Dragon Sea. Chapter 2152. The Heavenly Dragon Sea was the biggest and most dangerous forbidden area in the North region. For example, the Deputy Pavilion Lord. Not long ago, he had said that even he did not dare to step into the deepest part. One could imagine how dangerous was the Heavenly Dragon Sea. Therefore, a map was very important. Without a map, no one knew what was ahead, and they could lose their lives at any time. However, it was completely different with a map. Although a map was not omnipotent, at least they knew where they could go and where they could not. This would undoubtedly reduce a lot of burden and save a lot of trouble. And this map, every place and every route was clearly described. As Shangguan Qiu said, this was a treasure that could not be exchanged for anything. There are only 2 maps of the Heavenly Dragon Sea in the entire North region. The first one is in your hands. As for the second one, it is in the 9 Heavens Palace. Originally, I wanted to make a copy, but there was not enough time, so I could only give this original to you. But you have to remember, this is not a gift, but a loan. You must keep it well and not damage it. When you return from the Heavenly Dragon Sea, return it to me immediately. Shangguan Qiu said. Don't worry. Qin Feiyang nodded. This map was too precious. The Deputy Pavilion Lord and Shangguan Feng lent it to him because they trusted him greatly. He would not let them down. Shangguan Qiu smiled. All right then, I won't say much, lest you think I'm naggy. Be careful. Qin Feiyang kept the map and smiled. Why don't I refine some 4 symbols infinite divine pills for you before you leave? Shengguan Qiu frowned. You mean you won't be coming back this time? How can I not come back? I just don't know how long it will take. Qin Feiyang said. Now that you mention it, Shengguan Qiu pondered for a while and said, all right, then you can refine some more to avoid running out of stock. Wait here, I'll go get the herbs right away. Qin Feiyang nodded. Shengguan Qiu turned around and left quickly. After a while, he came back in a hurry and took out 4 palm-sized jade bottles and a cosmos sack. Qin Feiyang looked at the 4 jade bottles, and his expression suddenly froze. He asked, so many? A jade bottle the size of an adult's palm contained at least a few hundred drops of blood essence. He then grabbed the Qianquan bag, and his face instantly darkened. There should be 500 to 600 everlasting divine fruits in this Qianquan bag. You were the one who said that you would help me refine it. You can't regret it now. Shengguan Qiu looked at him with a smile. But isn't this too much? Refining the 4 symbols infinite divine pellet is not as simple as other pellets. The amount of mental energy consumed is far beyond what you can imagine. Besides, didn't you say that there aren't many medicinal herbs? Qin Feiyang was speechless. Shengguan Qiu said, only about 500 sets of herbs. That's not a lot. More than 500? Qin Feiyang felt extremely helpless. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have helped. Don't be like that. Anyway, you'll get a share of the soul stones from the auction. You can take the herbs back first and refine as many as you can. You can return the rest to me tomorrow morning. Shengguan Qiu smiled. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, there's no need to go back to the 9th Heaven Palace. Let's do it here. It was troublesome to run around. Here? Shengguan Qiu was stunned. Yes. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and took out the netherworld demonic flame and the blue phoenix cauldron. So you have your own alchemy fire. Shengguan Qiu suddenly realized. Qin Feiyang said, I don't like to be disturbed when I'm refining pellets. You can arrange it. Okay. Shengguan Qiu nodded and walked to the door. He opened the door and said to the 2 guards outside, from now on, I won't see anyone. Yes. The 2 guards replied respectfully. Also, you are not allowed to make a sound. After Shengguan Qiu finished speaking, he gently closed the door. What do you mean? The 2 guards looked at each other. Wait. Jiang Haotian didn't come out, did he? A man and a woman are alone inside. Are they? Don't talk nonsense. How is that nonsense? Didn't you hear the rumors outside? There's something going on between our steward and Jiang Haotian. Look at them now. The 2 of them are alone inside, a man and a woman, naked. Damn, this is too exciting. Looks like the treasure pavilion is going to have a wedding soon. The 2 of them whispered to each other outside, but there was dead silence inside. Qin Feiyang closed his eyes and focused. Shengguan Qiu stood aside silently and looked at Qin Feiyang curiously. There was a divine power boundary around the 2 of them. It was set up by Shengguan Qiu. It was mainly to isolate the high temperature of the netherworld demonic flame. After all, the netherworld demonic flame was now a divine-level alchemy fire. When it recovered, the high temperature would sweep through the entire treasure pavilion. A moment later, Qin Feiyang finally opened his eyes and began to refine pills calmly. Every movement and step was as smooth as flowing water. It was a visual pleasure. Shengguan Qiu was unknowingly mesmerized. Time flew by. The next day, early morning, 3 figures descended on the coastline of the Sky Dragon Sea. They were Hua Yi, Frenzy, and Mu Tianyang. Mu Tianyang smiled and said, good morning, you too. It's already so late. Is it still early? Frenzy rolled his eyes. Mu Tianyang came to Frenzy's side and smiled. Senior brother Frenzy, I heard that you fought with Feng Zihan outside last night. When I went out this morning, I also heard everyone talking about it. And someone said that Jiang Haotian killed Feng Yuan's daughter. Senior brother Frenzy, is that true? Hua Yi asked. Yes. Frenzy nodded. Hua Yi shook his head. The Feng family is really hopeless. What was the result of your fight with Feng Zihan? Frenzy said angrily, nonsense, is there a need to ask? Of course, I won. That can't be right. I heard that you didn't fight back. We have such a good relationship, so just say something from the bottom of your heart. Do you not have the heart to hurt her? Do you like her in your heart? Hua Yi smiled mischievously. Frenzy raised his eyebrows and said angrily, you even dare to gossip about me. Do you think you can be arrogant just because you have the Vice Palace Master backing you? No, no. Don't misunderstand. I'm just curious. Besides, liking someone is not a shameful thing. Look at me, I follow behind Lan all day, and no one says anything. Hua Yi chuckled. I'm not as thick-skinned as you. Frenzy's face was full of disdain. Then he looked around and frowned. Why isn't Jiang Haotian here yet? I don't know. Before I came, I went to his cave abode. There was no one. Hua Yi shook his head. Anyway, there's no rush. Let's wait. Mu Tianyang smiled. Treasure Pavilion. At this moment, there were already hundreds of people gathered outside. These people all came to the Treasure Pavilion early in the morning to buy things or sell things. But when they arrived, they found that the Treasure Pavilion, which usually opened for business before dawn, was actually closed today. Moreover, the two guards guarding the outer door didn't allow them to question or make a ruckus. What was going on? There were more and more people, but the door didn't open for a long time. Are you still going to open the door today? Can you give us a definite answer? If you're not opening, we'll go back first and come back tomorrow. Finally, someone couldn't help but ask. Sure. The two guards hurriedly glared at the man and gestured for him to keep quiet. In fact, they were also puzzled. It had already been an entire night. Even if they were having sex inside, it should have been over long ago. Creak. Suddenly, a sound rang. Everyone looked at the door. They saw the door open, and a white-clothed youth with a tired and haggard face walked out. Jiang Haotian? Why is he in the Treasure Pavilion? And he looks so haggard? Everyone was stunned. Good morning, everyone. Qin Feiyang showed a forced smile, greeted the crowd, and opened a transmission altar. Sheng Wanqiu also came out at this time, waved at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, "Take care, I won't see you off." His expression was completely different from Qin Feiyang's. He was radiant and full of vitality. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at Sheng Wanqiu, stepped onto the altar, and quickly disappeared. Sheng Wanqiu also turned and left with a smile on his face. Damn! Sheng Wanqiu is also here? What's going on? Everyone's face was full of doubts. A young man in black ran to the two guards and said in a low voice, "Brothers, did Jiang Haotian and your steward stay inside for an entire night?" Ahem. How can you say that? Show some respect. The two guards hurriedly shouted. The black-clothed youth was stunned, and then a look of understanding appeared on his face. He waved his hand and said with a smile, "No need to say any more, I understand, I understand." His smile was extremely ambiguous. Hearing that, the others looked at each other and also smiled ambiguously. It seemed that the rumors were true. However, these two were too powerful. They actually made love in there for an entire night? No wonder Jiang Haotian was so haggard. Who would be able to endure an entire night? Brother, it's over. They found out. Looking at everyone's reaction, one of the guards transmitted his voice. So what if they found out? It will be made public sooner or later anyway. Moreover, our steward and Jiang Haotian are a match made in heaven. Let's just wait for the wedding candies. Another guard said. Sheng Wanqiu and Qin Feiyang didn't know about these rumors and slanders. They would never have thought that refining pills for an entire night would cause such a huge misunderstanding. Sky Dragon C. Looking at Qin Feiyang, who was walking slowly with a tired face, the three of them were all suspicious. Brother, what's wrong with you? With your cultivation, even if you don't eat, drink, or sleep, you can't be so haggard, right? Hua Yi said. Don't mention it. I refined pills for an entire night in the treasure pavilion. Qin Feiyang shook his head. In fact, he had finished refining the 4 symbols infinite divine pills in the second half of the night. However, Sheng Wanqiu asked him to refine some 9 transformation dragon blood pills and 9 Chu yellow dragon pills, which really tired him out. So it was refining pills. Hua Yi nodded in realization and said jokingly, I thought you and Sheng Wanqiu had sex for an entire night. Sex? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Chapter 2153. You don't even know about war? Hua Yi was surprised. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Ahem. Mu Tianyang coughed and said, it means that you and Sheng Wanqiu are having sex in the treasure pavilion. Qin Feiyang was stunned and looked at Hua Yi speechlessly. What was he thinking all day long? Why was he so filthy? Actually, I don't mind if you become my brother-in-law. Hua Yi chuckled. Can I mind? Qin Feiyang glared at him fiercely. What do you mind? I'm the disciple of the Vice Palace Master. It's your honor to be my brother-in-law. Hua Yi pouted. Get lost. Qin Feiyang didn't want to talk nonsense with him anymore. He looked at Frenzy and Mu Tianyang and said, I have to recuperate. Which one of you is willing to let me into your spatial divine item? Frenzy acted as if he didn't hear it. Mu Tianyang glanced at Frenzy and said helplessly, Go to my divine palace. Okay. I also want to see it. Qin Feiyang said. Mu Tianyang smiled and said, It seems that you have confirmed it with the Vice Palace Master. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. What did he say? Mu Tianyang was curious. Qin Feiyang said, he was very angry, but I calmed him down. Otherwise, your divine palace would definitely be destroyed. Mu Tianyang said, then shouldn't I thank you? Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, no need to thank me. I know you're hypocritical. As long as you don't stab me in the back. What are you two talking about? What divine palace? It's related to the Vice Palace Master? Frenzy looked at the two suspiciously. It's the Golden Crow Divine Palace. Hua Yi interjected. Yesterday, when Mu Tianyang came down from the second floor, Hua Yi was also present, so he knew about the Golden Crow Temple. What? Golden Crow Temple? Madman was dumbfounded. Brother Hua, why are you so talkative? Mu Tianyang angrily looked at Hua Yi. He definitely couldn't let Madman know about this. Because of the Madman's relationship with the First Elder, he definitely knew about the existence of the Golden Crow Temple. What if Madman told the Great Elder? Hua Yi innocently asked, is there a need to hide this from Senior Apprentice Brother Crazy? Alas! Mu Tianyang sighed and said, the original owner of the Golden Crow Temple was actually the First Elder's son. I see. Hua Yi immediately understood. Looking at Mu Tianyang, he smiled and said, "I'm sorry. I've already said it. What's the use of apologizing?" Mu Tianyang rolled his eyes at him. Golden Crow Temple, the first elder's son, Madman muttered to himself and looked at the three of them. "You guys are really amazing. You actually investigated so many secrets without anyone knowing." "Hearsay, hearsay." Mu Tianyang laughed dryly. "Stop talking nonsense." Madman raised his eyebrows and looked at Mu Tianyang. "How did the Golden Crow Temple end up in your hands?" This, Mu Tianyang hesitated. Madman said, "If you don't say it, I will inform the first elder now." Mu Tianyang looked at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang looked at Madman, his eyes flickering. After a long time, he said, "Tell him." Mu Tianyang looked at Madman and said, "Feng Yuan gave it to me." "Feng Yuan?" Madman frowned. "Yes. Actually, the first elder's son was killed by Feng Yuan." Mu Tianyang said. "What?" Madman clenched his fists, killing intent surging in his eyes. "Do you have evidence?" Mu Tianyang said, "Isn't the Golden Crow Temple the best evidence? Damn that Feng Yuan. I won't forgive him." Madman was furious and immediately opened a teleportation altar. "Where are you going?" Qin Feiyang hurriedly pulled Madman and asked. Madman said, "Nonsense, of course I'm going to settle the score with Feng Yuan." Calm down, calm down. This matter isn't as simple as you think. Besides, are you Feng Yuan's match?" Qin Feiyang said. Madman wanted to say something but stopped. Qin Feiyang said, "It's not easy to kill Feng Yuan. You have to do it step by step and kill him with the final blow. You can't give him any chance to counterattack." Phew. Madman let out a long breath and nodded. "You're right, I was too impulsive just now." Qin Feiyang also heaved a sigh of relief and asked suspiciously, "Senior brother, what's your relationship with the first elder? Why are you so irritable after hearing the cause of his son's death?" "This matter, we'll talk about it later. Let me tell you first. Although I agreed to accompany you to the Sky Dragon Sea, I won't help you do anything." Madman said. Okay. Qin Feiyang and the other two nodded. That was what he said now, but when it came to a crisis, could Madman escape? If he couldn't escape, he would naturally take action. Madman looked at Mu Tianyang and said, "I'm going to the Golden Crow Temple too. If you want to go, do you think I dare to stop you?" Mu Tianyang smiled bitterly. "At least you know what's good for you." Madman said. Buzz. At this moment, Qin Feiyang's image crystal sounded. Who would send me a message at this time? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. He took out the image crystal and a shadow immediately appeared. "Gongzi Feng? Brother Jiang, where are you?" Gongzi Feng asked in an urgent tone, as if there was something important. "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Gongzi Feng said, "I already know the whereabouts of Feng Wenhai." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly and asked, "Where?" "Longquan Mountain." Gongzi Feng said. "Longquan Mountain?" Qin Feiyang frowned. Hua Yi and Mu Tianyang were also suspicious. Longquan Mountain is located in a remote place in the southwest. It's a dozen altars away from our 9-heaven palace. Gongzi Feng said. He actually went so far? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Madman suddenly said, "If I remember correctly, Feng Zihan also stayed in this Longquan Mountain." Yes. When Feng Zihan comprehended the profound meaning of becoming a god, he was in Longquan Mountain. Gongzi Feng nodded. A cold light flashed in Huiyi's eyes as he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Brother Jiang, didn't you want to kill him? Now is a good chance." Qin Feiyang was silent. Gong Zifeng said again, "There's one more thing." "What is it?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "Gao Xiaowei is missing," Gong Zifeng said. "How did she go missing?" Qin Feiyang frowned. Sigh. Gao Xiaolong's death was a big blow to her. 2 days ago, she came to find me. I didn't know what to say and she never appeared again. Gong Zifeng sighed. "Of course you don't know what to say because Gao Xiaolong was killed by you," Qin Feiyang said angrily. Gong Zifeng lowered his head in shame. Qin Feiyang said, "Let me tell you, you must find her for me or I will take your little life." "Yes." Gong Zifeng's eyes trembled as he hurriedly replied. Qin Feiyang said in a low voice, "Give me the coordinates of Longquan Mountain." Without waiting for Gong Zifeng to speak, the madman said, "I know the location of Longquan Mountain." Qin Feiyang was stunned. He looked at Gong Zifeng and said, "Go find Gao Xiaowei immediately." "Okay." Gong Zifeng nodded and the image disappeared. Qin Feiyang kept the image crystal and looked at the madman. "We will listen to you this time. If you say go to Longquan Mountain, we will go." "Of course. Since I can't kill Feng Yuan now, I will collect some interest first." A cold light flashed in the madman's eyes. "Okay. Let's go." Qin Feiyang nodded. The madman took out an altar. "Wait. Look over there. Is there a person?" Hua Yi suddenly looked in the direction of the left coast. Qin Feiyang and the other two were stunned and looked over. On the coast, there was indeed a person standing on a reef. However, the distance was too far. Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang couldn't see clearly. The madman said, "It's Gao Xiaowei." His cultivation was higher than Qin Feiyang, so he naturally saw further than Qin Feiyang. "It's her? Why is she standing there alone? Could it be, she can't take it anymore and wants to commit suicide?" Mu Tianyang said in shock. "Suicide?" Qin Feiyang was shocked. He quickly teleported and rushed over. Mu Tianyang and the other two looked at each other and followed. Soon, Qin Feiyang rushed behind the reef. The reef stood on the surface of the sea, more than 10 meters tall. Gao Xiaowei stood alone on it. The wind messed up her hair, and her face looked extremely haggard. At this moment, she was like a helpless girl, staring at the sea in front of her, her eyes filled with confusion. And there was also a sadness that couldn't be dispelled from her body. "It seems to be quite serious." Mu Tianyang transmitted his voice. The Gao family was exterminated, leaving only the siblings to rely on each other. And now, even her only brother died an unnatural death. In the face of such a blow, even a man might not be able to withstand it, let alone a woman like her. Qin Feiyang sighed inwardly. Mu Tianyang said, "Then you go and persuade her." Qin Feiyang nodded. But at this moment, Gao Xiaowei smiled sadly, opened her hands, leaned forward, and slowly fell down. "Damn! She really wants to commit suicide." Hua Yi's face changed. Who knew how many sea beasts were lurking in the sea? With Gao Xiaowei's cultivation, once she fell into the sea, she would definitely die. Qin Feiyang's face also changed. He jumped and instantly landed behind Gao Xiaowei. Then, he grabbed Gao Xiaowei's wrist and pulled her back. Gao Xiaowei was surprised and turned around. When she saw Qin Feiyang standing behind her, she was stunned. "What are you doing?" Qin Feiyang frowned. Gao Xiaowei lowered her head. Qin Feiyang said, "I know Gao Xiaolong's death is very painful for you, but what you're doing, are you worthy of him? Then what can I do? In the past, although I lost my family, at least Big Brother was with me. But now, Big Brother has left me, what's the point of me living alone in this world? Gao Xiaohui roared. I'm very sorry about your big brother's death. But I believe your big brother didn't want you to do this. I understand the feeling of losing a loved one. But those who are still alive should live well. This is the best way to repay the dead. Qin Feiyang sighed. Gao Xiaohui shook her head, but enough. There's no hurdle you can't cross. After all, in a person's life and death is a process you have to go through. Qin Feiyang smiled comfortingly. Big brother Jiang, Gao Xiaohui threw herself into Qin Feiyang's arms and cried. Although Gao Xiaolong isn't here, as long as you don't mind, I'll be your big brother in the future. Qin Feiyang patted Gao Xiaohui's back and smiled. But hearing this, Gao Xiaohui's body stiffened. Only big brother? Chapter 2154. What's wrong? Are you unhappy? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. Because he also noticed Gao Xiaohui's abnormality. Gao Xiaohui wanted to say something but hesitated. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, all right, they are still watching, don't cry. They? Gao Xiaohui was stunned, leaving Qin Feiyang's arms, turned her head, and found that Mu Tianyang and the other two were also there. Especially when she saw Madman, a trace of reverence immediately crept up her face. Am I so scary? Madman grumbled in dissatisfaction. If you are not scary, who is? Even if it is a heavenless disciple, seeing you is like seeing a devil, let alone an outer disciple like her. Mu Tianyang laughed secretly. Hee hee. Madman put on a fake smile. Brother Jiang, there are still important things to do, hurry up. Hua Yi reminded. Qin Feiyang nodded, lowered his head and looked at Gao Xiaohui, saying, hurry up and go back, don't do anything stupid. Where are you going? Can I go with you? Gao Xiaohui asked. No. Because it is very dangerous. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Gao Xiaohui couldn't help but feel a trace of disappointment. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, I will give you some more soul stones, go back and cultivate hard, and when you become stronger in the future, no one will dare to bully you. No need. There are still many soul stones left that you gave us last time. Gao Xiaohui shook her head. All right then. Qin Feiyang nodded, opened a teleportation altar that led directly to the heaven stairway, and said with a smile, then hurry up and go back, try not to come to the Sky Dragon Sea in the future, it is too dangerous. Then you have to be careful. Gao Xiaohui warned, and then nodded to Mu Tianyang and the other two, and then took a deep look at Qin Feiyang, and turned to walk up the altar. Very soon. Gao Xiaohui was teleported away. Mu Tianyang joked, Brother Jiang, your luck with women is enviable. Luck in love affairs? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. Mu Tianyang was stunned, you didn't see that Gao Xiaohui was interested in you? Interested in me? Impossible. Qin Feiyang frowned. Hua Yi smiled and said, Brother Mu is not talking nonsense. Gao Xiaohui does have feelings for you. I can see it too. Madman nodded. Ugh. Qin Feiyang looked at the three of them in astonishment. Could it be that this was really the case? No. Towards Gao Xiaohui, he was more sympathetic and had nothing to do with feelings. If what the three of them said was true, then this matter had to be explained to Gao Xiaohui as soon as possible. Otherwise, she would definitely sink deeper and deeper. The deeper he fell, the more painful it would be. Anyway, he couldn't allow this matter to continue developing. Let's go to Longquan Mountain. Madman also activated the altar. The four of them walked up one after another. Longquan Mountain. Although not many people knew about the Nine Heavens Palace and Sky Dragon City, they were still quite famous in the area. This was because there were many powerful beasts in Longquan Mountain. Their cultivation was basically between the war saint and the war king. And the nearby villages, the average strength was only at the war master level. Therefore, in the eyes of the locals, Longquan Mountain was also a forbidden area. Longquan Mountain, Peak. There was a quiet and elegant small courtyard. Around the courtyard, there was a 1-meter-high wooden fence. In the middle, there was a 2-story wooden building. Flowers bloomed all around. The air was clear and the environment was beautiful. It was indeed a good place to cultivate in seclusion. At this moment, on the second floor's balcony, a middle-aged man stood facing the wind, his face filled with anger and killing intent. It was Feng Wenhai. Feng Zihan had already told him about the fat woman's death through sound transmission. To him, this was undoubtedly adding fuel to the fire. His hatred for Qin Feiyang had also reached an unprecedented level. Feng Yuan had very few people to begin with. And now, Feng Zijuan, Yin Hui and the others were all dead. In the entire Feng family, only he, Feng Yuan, and Feng Zihan were left. This was to let their Feng family have no descendants. Jiang Haotian, Gongzi Feng, Hua Yi, Mu Tianyang, and Madman, just you wait. Sooner or later, there will be a day when I will find all of you to settle the old and new grudges. Feng Wenhai was getting angrier and angrier, to the point of going crazy. He. I'm afraid you won't have the chance. Suddenly, a cold laugh sounded out. Feng Wenhai was shocked. He raised his head and saw 4 young men standing silently in the void above him. It was Qin Feiyang's group of 4. Feng Wenhai's expression immediately changed as he asked in surprise, "When did you guys come?" "Not long ago. Seeing that you were so engrossed in your thoughts, we didn't want to disturb you." Hua Yi teased. Feng Wenhai's heart sank, and said, "Didn't you guys go to the Sky Dragon Sea? How did you find this place? And how did you know I was here?" "In the past, when Feng Zihan was in seclusion here, I came here. As for how I knew you were here, this is all thanks to your good son." Madman said. "Gongzi Feng?" Feng Wenhai said in a deep voice. Madman sneered, "Other than him, do you have any other sons now?" "This damn little bastard." Feng Wenhai was furious. He swept his eyes around Qin Feiyang and the others, and asked, "Just the 4 of you?" "Yes. Just the 4 of us." Qin Feiyang nodded. "What are you guys doing here?" Feng Wenhai said. Qin Feiyang said, "Don't you know what we're here for?" "Huh." Feng Wenhai laughed, laughing extremely brightly. "What are you laughing at?" Mu Tianyang asked curiously. "I'm laughing at your stupidity. With just the strength of the 4 of you, you dare to come here to kill me? Perfect. Since you guys took the initiative to come to me, then let's settle this. Today, none of you will be able to leave Dragon Spring Mountain alive." Feng Wenhai laughed, his divine might erupting. "What cultivation level?" Qin Feiyang asked secretly. "Great success." Madman's face was full of disdain. Qin Feiyang and the others were stunned. A great success paragon god was actually so disdainful? The 3 of them looked at each other and tactfully retreated to the side, leaving the battlefield to Madman. Boom! Feng Wenhai soared into the sky and punched at Madman. His speed was so fast that even Qin Feiyang and the others couldn't catch it. Madman didn't seem to be able to react in time and was hit by Feng Wenhai's punch. He immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out like a meteorite. If you hadn't been idle all these years, your cultivation might have surpassed mine by now. Unfortunately, you've wasted 7,000 to 8,000 years. Little bastard, today is the day you die. Feng Wenhai's face was full of contempt as he unleashed his extreme speed and punched Madman's chest again. With a cracking sound, his bones broke and his internal organs were damaged. What's going on? Why isn't he fighting back? Mu Tianyang frowned. I'm not sure. Qin Feiyang and Hua Yi shook their heads. They looked at Madman again. Although he was heavily injured by Feng Wenhai, his expression didn't change at all. No. There was a change. It became more and more sinister. It was as if a sleeping beast was gradually awakening. What's wrong? Aren't you usually very arrogant in Nine Heaven Palace? Why aren't you moving now? Is this all you've got? Feng Wenhai laughed and stepped forward to slap Madman's chest again. Puff! Madman spat out blood and smashed into the ground below. A giant mountain was directly flattened. What is he doing? Mu Tianyang raised his eyebrows. Qin Feiyang said, anyway, we can't help. Let's just watch quietly. A battle between paragon gods wasn't something they could interfere in. Whoosh! Feng Wenhai became more and more arrogant. He flashed down and grabbed Madman's neck, twisting it. Fight back? Why are you silent? Is it because you see that I'm too strong and don't have the courage to fight back? Huh, before in Nine Heaven Palace, I tolerated you because of Grand Elder's face. Do you really think you're invincible? In my eyes, you're just a piece of trash. Feng Wenhai was disdainful to the extreme as he punched Madman's face again and again. Not long later. Madman's face was unrecognizable and blood flowed out. His entire person looked extremely miserable. But his expression became colder and colder, like two sharp blades, making Feng Wenhai's heart couldn't help but begin to panic. Since you're not going to fight back, then die for me. Feng Wenhai's eyes surged with killing intent. On his fist, divine power emerged, exuding a destructive aura as it blasted toward Madman's head. This blow was enough to kill. But at this moment, Madman suddenly raised his arm and grabbed Feng Wenhai's fist. An invisible force was like a torrent, toppling mountains and overturning seas. Kacha, Feng Wenhai's fist actually emitted the crisp sound of bones cracking. Such a terrifying power. Feng Wenhai's expression immediately changed as he hurriedly shook Madman away, his expression full of disbelief. The physical strength displayed by Madman was actually a bit stronger than his. Madman ignored the injuries on his body and his face that was constantly bleeding. His cold gaze was like a death god staring at Feng Wenhai. Do you know that Feng Yuan killed my adoptive father? Adoptive father? Feng Wenhai was taken aback. Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other, their faces full of suspicion. Madman said word by word, it's the son of First Elder. What? First Elder's son is your adoptive father? Feng Wenhai was shocked. Qin Feiyang and the other two also looked at each other. Adoptive father? Didn't that mean that Madman was the adoptive son of First Elder's son? No wonder Madman would be so angry when he heard the real cause of death of First Elder's son, so it was because of this relationship. But looking at Feng Wenhai's reaction, other than First Elder, no one should know the relationship between these two. You are his adoptive son? How is this possible? Feng Wenhai was extremely shocked. Adoptive father and adoptive son? It was simply too unbelievable. Madman did not explain and said gloomily, answer my question. Ridiculous. Your adoptive father was kind to my father, how could my father harm him? Don't slander me. Feng Wenhai shouted angrily. But his expression was a little guilty. It seems that you won't tell the truth. Since that's the case, then there's no point in keeping you. Want to see my strength? Fine. I'll fulfill your wish now. Madman smiled sinisterly as a monstrous aura suddenly erupted. Chapter 2155. I know that over the years, the Great Elder has given you a lot of trump cards, but I also have a lot. Moreover, the gap between our cultivations is a chasm that you will never be able to cross. Today, you must die. Not only will you die, but they will also die. Feng Wenhai pointed at Qin Feiyang and the other two and laughed loudly. Madman licked the blood from the corner of his mouth and said, "Soon, you will take back those words." "Huh," Feng Wenhai laughed wildly. "Blood Demon Domain, open." Madman said word by word, and as the last word blurted out, a monstrous blood light emerged. That blood light was like the sign of the birth of a demon, emitting a terrifying murderous aura. Following closely. The blood light was like a tide, drowning in all directions, forming a blood barrier that covered tens of thousands of miles. Qin Feiyang and the others were also inside the barrier. Immediately, they felt a strange force drilling into their bodies. The next moment, a terrifying scene appeared. Their cultivations began to plummet. Perfect War God. Great Success War God. Small Success War God. Initial War God. It didn't stop until they fell to the pseudo-god realm. In other words, the blood-colored barrier had caused their cultivation to drop by 5 minor levels. What kind of divine art was this? It was too terrifying. Looking at Feng Wenhai again, he also turned pale with fright. Because his cultivation was also plummeting. Small Success Paragon God. Initial Paragon God. Half-Step Paragon God. Perfect Divine Lord. Perfect Divine Lord. He also fell by 5 realms in a row. What the hell is going on? Feng Wenhai's face was full of shock. Although he didn't have much contact with Madman, he knew a lot about Madman's methods. In his impression, Madman didn't have such methods at all. Madman sneered, "Do you think that Laozi has been idle all these years?" Feng Wenhai was surprised. More than 7,000 years ago, Laozi created the first move of the Blood Demon Seal. More than 6,000 years ago, Laozi created the second move, Blood Demon Roar. More than 5,000 years ago, Laozi created the third move, Bloodthirsty Demon King. More than 4,000 years ago, I created the fourth style, which is what you see now, the Blood Demon Domain. And 1,000 years ago, I created the fifth move. However, you will never have the chance to see the fifth move. And in the past few thousand years, I've raised all 5 styles of the Blood Demon to the legendary level. Madman said proudly. What? There's a fifth move? Feng Wenhai trembled both physically and mentally. If the fourth style was already so terrifying, then how shocking would the fifth style be? I have to say, creating a divine incantation is truly a difficult task. However, I did it. And you? Let alone creating a legendary grade deity art, I'm afraid you can't even raise the level of a deity art. Now tell me, what qualifications do you have to be so arrogant in front of me? Madman roared. With a single step, he arrived in front of Feng Wenhai and punched Feng Wenhai's chest. Ah! Feng Wenhai let out a blood-curdling scream as blood spurted from his mouth. With his cultivation dropping by 5 realms, there was no way he could continue fighting. He turned around and fled. As long as he left the realm of the Blood Devil, his cultivation base would be restored. However, not only did the realm of the Blood Devil cause his cultivation base to plummet, but it also suppressed his speed to that of a perfect Divine Lord. How could the speed of a perfect Divine Lord compare to Madman, who was a half-step Divine Lord? Madman wasn't in a hurry. He slowly followed behind Feng Wenhai step by step. And the realm of the Blood Devil was actually moving along with Madman. In other words, no matter how Feng Wenhai escaped, as long as Madman followed him, Feng Wenhai would always be trapped in the realm of the Blood Devil. At this moment, Feng Wenhai was burning with anxiety. With his cultivation suppressed and his speed suppressed, how could he escape the realm of the Blood Devil? The most important thing was, Madman was following behind him, ready to end his life at any time. Don't chase, I beg you. I'll tell you everything. Your adoptive father was killed by my father. Feng Wenhai roared. He was panicking to the extreme. Madman's eyes were filled with killing intent as he turned to look at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang understood and took out an image crystal. Madman shouted, say it again. Be more specific and detailed. It was my father who was greedy for the position of Hall Master of the Resource Hall. He killed your adoptive father in the Sky Dragon Sea and framed the Deputy Hall Master of the Treasure Pavilion. The people who came with him were also killed by my father. It's all true, my father told me personally, Feng Wenhai roared. He didn't notice at all that this scene had been recorded by Qin Feiyang. Finally, I got the evidence. Qin Feiyang laughed and put away the image crystal. Now, Feng Yuan's time of death has come. But what I'm looking forward to the most is what kind of expression he will have when he sees that his own son betrayed him. Huiyi's face was full of ridicule. However, Mu Tianyang frowned and remained silent. Feng Wenhai shouted, I've already said it, just let me go. Let you go? Madman smiled sinisterly and grabbed Feng Wenhai's head. Haven't you heard of the saying the son pays for the father's debt? Don't, Feng Wenhai roared at the top of his lungs. But it was useless. Madman's 5 fingers suddenly exerted force and Feng Wenhai's head exploded on the spot like a watermelon. Flesh and blood flew everywhere. His divine soul was also instantly destroyed. Terrifying, truly terrifying. Huiyi muttered. Qin Feiyang's eyes were also filled with deep fear. Last time in the land of the far west, he felt that Madman didn't use his full strength. In the end, it was true. And it was countless times more terrifying than he imagined. The Blood Demon domain had dropped 5 realms. If it was any other opponent, it would be a disaster. Of course. To Qin Feiyang, Madman's Blood Demon domain couldn't pose a threat to him. Because he had the Eye of Heaven that could copy all attacks. However, to others, the Madman was an opponent that made them despair. Adoptive father, I have already found the person who harmed you back then. I will make him pay a heavy price soon. You should feel very gratified in the underworld. Madman muttered, and the Blood Demon domain disappeared. Then, holding Feng Wenhai's headless corpse, he turned to look at Qin Feiyang and the other 2, and said, return to the 9 Heavens Palace. His tone was filled with a shocking murderous aura. Qin Feiyang and Huiyi looked at each other. Since they had the evidence, they could indeed fight back. But it was also a little unexpected. Originally, they just wanted to collect some interest, but they didn't expect Feng Wenhai to be so cowardly and actually confess everything. It seemed that they could only wait until this matter was settled before going to the Sky Dragon Sea. Huiyi suddenly looked at Mu Tianyang and said suspiciously, Brother Mu Tianyang, what are you thinking about? Not saying a word. Qin Feiyang was taken aback and also looked at Mu Tianyang. Seeing Mu Tianyang lowering his head, he seemed to be hesitating. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang thought. Mu Tianyang glanced at Madman and transmitted his voice to Qin Feiyang and Huiyi, have you thought of a problem? If we get rid of Feng Yuan now, how will we find out the whereabouts of the Vein of Soul? Qin Feiyang thought, even if Feng Yuan is dead, isn't there still the next Hall Master of the Resource Hall? But none of us know who the next Hall Master of the Resource Hall will be. Is this person easy to deal with? Will he trust us? In short, it wasn't easy for me to gain Feng Yuan's trust. If I kill him now, I will feel a little uncomfortable. Mu Tianyang transmitted his voice. I can understand your feelings. After all, for the Vein of Soul, you worked so hard for so long and suffered so many grievances. But I don't think Feng Yuan will tell you the location of the vein of soul. You know very well in your heart that once we are killed, Feng Yuan will immediately get rid of you. Moreover, look at Madman now, will he listen to us? Definitely not. Qin Feiyang thought. Mu Tianyang pondered for a while and nodded, all right, let's kill him first. As for the vein of soul, we can't rush it anyway. Moreover, we don't lack soul stones for the time being. We can think about it later. Then let's go. Qin Feiyang smiled. The three of them flew toward Madman. Madman looked at the three of them suspiciously and said, "What are you guys whispering about?" "Nothing." The three of them shook their heads and smiled. "It's definitely nothing good." Madman rolled his eyes at the three of them, but he wasn't in the mood to get to the bottom of it. He opened a teleportation altar. Whoosh! The four of them jumped up one after another. Chapter 2156. Ninth Heaven Palace. The ancient sky stairway reached the clouds, and the Ninth Heaven Palace was suspended in the clouds. Under the sunlight, it was like a fairyland. Usually in the morning and afternoon, there would be a large number of disciples coming out of the Ninth Heaven Palace. They were all there to gain experience. In groups of 2s and 3s, everyone looked energetic and full of expectations. They were looking forward to a good harvest. Swish! Suddenly, 4 figures descended on the mountain peak below the sky stairway. What a strong evil aura and smell of blood. It's Madman. And Jiang Haotian, Hua Yi, and Mu Tianyang. Where did they come from? Look, Madman is actually carrying a headless corpse in his hand. Who is that? Seeing Qin Feiyang and the other three appear, the disciples on the mountain peak and the sky stairway all stopped, their faces full of surprise. The white-haired old man guarding the sky stairway also opened his eyes and looked at the 4 people. But in the end, he didn't say anything and closed his eyes again. With Madman leading the way, Qin Feiyang and the other 2 followed closely behind, stepping up the sky stairway step by step. Feng Wenhai's corpse was still dripping blood, dyeing the sky stairway red. The disciples in front all made way. Everyone's expression was full of fear towards Madman, and no one dared to open their mouth to ask. He was like a demon king, making people afraid. Don't you think that the figure of the corpse seems a bit familiar? Familiar? Without a head, you can't tell who it is. But what is certain is that this person definitely provoked Madman and was killed by him. But why would he bring the corpse back to the Ninth Heaven Palace? Could it be that this corpse is related to the Ninth Heaven Palace? After the 4 of them left, the disciples immediately began to discuss in low voices. Hall Master. The Law Enforcement Hall. A woman in a black dress hurriedly ran into the hall. Sitting on the throne above, Shengguan Fenglan, who was handling affairs, looked at the woman in black suspiciously and said, "Wang Yun, why are you in such a panic?" Madman and Jiang Haotian came back with a headless corpse. Wang Yun said, "What? Headless corpse? What do they want to do now?" Shengguan Fenglan suddenly stood up. "I don't know. However, I heard that the madman is very terrifying now. His baleful aura has never been seen before." Wang Yun said. Shengguan Fenglan frowned and asked, "Where are they now?" Wang Yun said, "They seem to be heading straight for the Great Council Hall." He even went to the conference hall. Shengguan Fenglan was stunned and muttered, "Looks like it's not a small matter. I have to go and take a look." After saying that, she put down the matters in her hands and flew towards the conference hall. 9 Heavens Palaces Palace Master level and above, go to the Great Meeting Hall immediately. I have something important to say. At the same time, Madman's shout resounded like thunder, spreading throughout the entire 9 Heaven Palace. Lunatic? What is that bastard trying to do now? You really don't let me be at ease even for a day. Hearing this, all the leaders gathered in the conference hall with a helpless mood. Conference hall. Shangguan Fenglan was the first to arrive. Glancing at the empty hall, she didn't go in. Instead, she stood in the square outside. Whoosh! A short while later, one figure after another streaked across the sky. Among them was Feng Yuan. Someone asked, "Why did this lunatic suddenly call us here?" "I don't know. But in front of us, he doesn't dare to mess around. I think there really is something big." All the leaders were discussing. But Feng Yuan kept his head down and remained silent. There was a trace of suspicion between his brows. Didn't these people go to the Sky Dragon Sea early in the morning? Why did they come back? Swish! Not long after, another old figure appeared. "Greetings, Grand Elder." All the leaders hurriedly bowed. "Go in." The Grand Elder smiled, walked into the conference hall, and sat on the chair at the top. "Grand Elder, do you know the purpose of Madman calling us here?" Everyone also took their seats, then looked at the Grand Elder and asked. "I'm not sure either." The Grand Elder shook his head and looked at Shangguan Fenglan. "Don't look at me. I don't know either." Shangguan Fenglan smiled bitterly. The Grand Elder smiled and said, "Since no one knows, then it's fun. I think he's just messing around." "Grand Elder, it's not that I want to say this, but you usually spoil him too much and spoil him." Feng Yuan said unhappily. He. "Don't worry, whether he's messing around or not, we'll know later." The Grand Elder smiled. A moment later. Swish! Qin Feiyang and the other three arrived outside the conference hall. They really brought a corpse? Shangguan Fenglan was speechless. "Wait a minute." Suddenly, there was a trace of surprise in her eyes as she looked at Feng Wenhai's corpse. Why did this corpse look a little familiar? At the same time, the other leaders were also looking at the corpse suspiciously, feeling that it was a little familiar. But at the same time, Feng Yuan suddenly stood up and stared at Feng Wenhai's corpse. Although there was no head, he recognized Feng Wenhai's clothes at a glance. Because just last night, he had sent a message to Feng Wenhai. At this moment, the clothes on this corpse were exactly the same as the clothes Feng Wenhai wore yesterday. The Grand Elder noticed Feng Yuan's reaction and asked suspiciously, "Hall Master Feng Yuan, do you know who this corpse is?" "I'm not sure." Feng Yuan shook his head and returned to his chair, muttering, "This must be a coincidence." Outside the door, the four of them looked at each other, then grabbed Feng Wenhai's corpse and entered the conference hall. "Lunatic, what are you doing? This is the conference hall, how can you bring a corpse in? Hurry up and throw it out." Shangguan Fenglan shouted. "This corpse is today's main character, how can I throw it out?" Lunatic smiled coldly. Hearing this, the doubts on the faces of the leaders were even stronger. The Grand Elder looked at Lunatic and asked suspiciously, "Then who is this corpse?" Lunatic said, "He is, wait." Qin Feiyang suddenly spoke. Everyone looked at Qin Feiyang again. Lunatic also turned his head and looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Qin Feiyang said, "We still lack 2 people." "Who?" Lunatic asked. Qin Feiyang looked at the Grand Elder and bowed, "These 2 people's identities are quite special, I hope that the Grand Elder can approve them to enter the 9 Heavens Palace." "Who?" the Grand Elder asked. "Please allow this disciple to keep you in suspense." Qin Feiyang said. "You brat," the Grand Elder shook his head and laughed, "All right, as you wish." "Thank you, Grand Elder." Qin Feiyang bowed and thanked him, then took out the image crystal. Buzz. Not long after, An old man's silhouette appeared. What? It's actually him. The leaders were suddenly in an uproar. The Grand Elder also stood up, his face full of anger. Because that shadow was the Vice Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion. The Vice Pavilion Master also noticed the Grand Elder and the others, and his expression was somewhat gloomy. Old Senior. Qin Feiyang bowed. The Vice Pavilion Master retracted his gaze and looked at Qin Feiyang, puzzled. Little friend, what are you doing? Qin Feiyang didn't talk nonsense and went straight to the point. Old Senior, please come to the Nine Heavens Palace immediately. The Vice Pavilion Master was stunned. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, you definitely understand. Hearing Qin Feiyang's words, a cold light flashed in the Vice Pavilion Master's eyes, but he still hesitated. Qin Feiyang said, don't worry, the Grand Elder has already approved you to enter the Nine Heavens Palace. The Vice Pavilion Master looked at the Grand Elder in surprise and nodded, all right, this old man will be there immediately. We're in the conference hall. Qin Feiyang said again. The Vice Pavilion Master responded, and the shadow disappeared. Jiang Haotian, you're too presumptuous. Do you know that the Vice Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion is the executioner who killed the Grand Elder's son? He is the enemy of our Nine Heavens Palace. Grand Elder, this brat is too presumptuous. He might even be a spy that the Treasure Pavilion placed in our Nine Heavens Palace. Grand Elder, please kill him immediately. Feng Yuan shouted. The other big shots were also furious. Allowing the Vice Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion to enter the Nine Heavens Palace, wasn't this deliberately embarrassing the Grand Elder? Looking at the Grand Elder again. At this moment, he was looking at Qin Feiyang with a gloomy face. Shengguan Fenglan saw that the situation wasn't good and sent a message, Grand Elder, please calm down. Jiang Haotian isn't a reckless person. He must have a reason for letting the Vice Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion come to the Nine Heavens Palace. Let's wait and see. The Grand Elder took a deep breath and returned to his seat. Jiang Haotian, you better give this old man a satisfactory explanation. Otherwise, even if Madman protects you, you won't be able to walk out of this hall today. Qin Feiyang said respectfully, don't worry, I guarantee you'll be satisfied. That better be the case. After the Grand Elder finished speaking, he closed his eyes as if to calm the anger in his heart. Shengguan Fenglan also breathed a sigh of relief and asked, Jiang Haotian, didn't you say there were two people? Where's the other one? This disciple will inform him now. Qin Feiyang put away the image crystal and closed his eyes. Huh? Everyone looked at Qin Feiyang in astonishment. Wasn't he going to inform him? Why did he put away the image crystal and even close his eyes? What the hell was this kid doing? About 10 breaths later, Qin Feiyang opened his eyes and smiled, this disciple has already informed him, he's on his way to the Nine Heavens Palace. The group of big shots looked at each other. Already informed? With his eyes closed, how could he inform the other party? Qin Feiyang said, this person's identity is more special than the Vice Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion, so please don't ask for the time being. What? More special than the Vice Pavilion Master? Could he be the Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion? Everyone was surprised. He's not the Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion. His identity is actually very ordinary. But his appearance will bring everyone a surprise. Qin Feiyang smiled. Surprise? Now that you mention it, I'm really looking forward to it. Shengguan Fenglan said. Qin Feiyang smiled and fell silent, but his eyes were always on Feng Yuan. Feng Yuan also kept an eye on Feng Wenhai's body. Why were their clothes exactly the same? Could he be Wenhai? No. Absolutely impossible. Wenhai was hiding in Longquan Mountain, no one except him and Feng Zihan knew about it. Moreover, Even if these people found Longquan Mountain, with their cultivation, it was impossible to kill Wen Hai. This must be a coincidence. Chapter 2157. The conference hall fell into a deathly silence for the time being. Wang. Suddenly. Within the hall, the sound of the image crystal vibrating could be heard. Everyone looked at the great elder. The reason for that was because the voice had come from the first elder. The great elder took out the image crystal. The image of a white-haired old man appeared. Looking at the white-haired old man, all the big shots present had a respectful expression. The white-haired old man looked at the great elder and asked, "Did you approve the Vice Pavilion Master to come to Nine Heavens Palace?" The great elder nodded and said, "There's another person." "Who?" The white-haired old man was suspicious. "I don't know. You can ask him." The great elder shook his head and the image crystal turned to face Qin Feiyang. "Greetings, old senior. The other person should be here soon. When the time comes, I'll have to trouble you to ask him. If he says that I asked him to come, then please let him enter Nine Heavens Palace." Qin Feiyang said respectfully. "Okay." The white-haired old man nodded and then the image disappeared. "Look, the stairway to heaven is warning. Who is he? He doesn't seem to be from our Nine Heavens Palace. You don't even know him? Let me tell you, he's the Vice Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion." "What? He's the Vice Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion? Oh my God. He's a famous big shot in the northern region. I didn't expect that today. I would be lucky enough to see his face with my own eyes." The appearance of the Vice Pavilion Master, without any suspense, caused another huge uproar in Nine Heavens Palace. Not long after the Vice Pavilion Master entered Nine Heavens Palace, a middle-aged man appeared on the mountain peak. The middle-aged man stood at the bottom of the stairway and looked at Nine Heavens Palace with a hesitant expression. "You are, Guiyong?" The white-haired old man opened his eyes and looked at the middle-aged man in surprise. "Greetings, Lord." Guiyong bowed and said, "I didn't expect Lord to remember a small character like me." The white-haired old man asked, "Jiang Haotian asked you to come, right?" Guiyong nodded. "Then go up." The white-haired old man said and closed his eyes. Sigh. If it's a blessing, it's not a curse. If it's a curse, it can't be avoided. Guiyong sighed deeply and stepped onto the stairway to heaven. Conference hall. Whoosh. With a piercing sound, the Deputy Pavilion Master landed on the square outside the gate. The Deputy Pavilion Masters all looked over, their expressions extremely unfriendly. The Great Elder also opened his eyes, 2 rays of cold light shooting out from his eyes. "Old Senior." Qin Feiyang went up to him. "Thank you for your hard work." The Vice Pavilion Master laughed in a hoarse voice. "I'm fine." Qin Feiyang waved his hand and helped the Deputy Pavilion Master into the conference hall. Feng Yuan raged, "Great Elder, look at his respectful attitude, he must be a spy planted by the Treasure Pavilion in our Nine Heavens Palace." "Spies? Feng Yuan, do you really want to get rid of me so badly?" Qin Feiyang sneered. Feng Yuan said, "What I said is the truth. Don't worry. The truth will naturally become clear later." Qin Feiyang said. The Deputy Pavilion Master glanced at Feng Yuan, then looked at the Great Elder sitting opposite him and said, "I didn't expect you and I would meet again. Do you think this old man wants to see you?" The Great Elder said expressionlessly. The Deputy Pavilion Master said indifferently, "To be honest, this old man doesn't want to see you either, but there are some things that must be resolved." The Great Elder raised his eyebrows and looked at Shengguan Fenglan. "Give him a chair, lest he goes out and says that our Nine Heavens Palace bullied a disabled person like him." "No need. This old man doesn't deserve it." The deputy pavilion master waved his hand and took out a simple wooden chair from his yin and yang ring, then sat upright on it. Although one of his legs was crippled, his invisible aura made the various authorities present feel ashamed of their inferiority. Qin Feiyang glanced at the deputy pavilion master and the great elder. It seemed that even if the truth was revealed, these two old men would still find it difficult to tolerate each other. Putting the great elder aside. As for the deputy pavilion master, it was the great elder who made him suffer all these years. And his leg was also crippled because of the great elder. Just imagine. After being wronged like this, who would easily forgive the other party? Soon. Guiyong also appeared outside the council hall. What? It's actually him. Feng Yuan's body immediately stiffened. He seems to be Guiyong. How could it be him? The other leaders were also bewildered. How is it? Lords, is this a surprise? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. This is a shock. Shangguan Fenglan looked at Qin Feiyang speechlessly. For some people, it is indeed a shock. Qin Feiyang chuckled and glanced at Feng Yuan. Hearing this, Shangguan Fenglan finally understood what Qin Feiyang was going to do. He was going to make a move on Feng Yuan. At the same time, Guiyong entered the hall, looked at Feng Yuan in fear, and walked to Qin Feiyang's side. Standing next to Qin Feiyang, he felt a lot more at ease. Then, he bowed to the first elder and the other leaders. Greetings, first elder. Greetings, lords. The great elder also vaguely realized Qin Feiyang's purpose. He glanced at Guiyong and the deputy pavilion master, then looked at Qin Feiyang and Madman and said, "Now speak." Qin Feiyang sneered, kicked Feng Wenhai's body in front of Feng Yuan, and said, "Feng Yuan, do you really not recognize your son?" Feng Yuan's son? He is Feng Wenhai. The leaders were shocked. Hearing Madman's words, Feng Yuan lowered his head to look at Feng Wenhai's body, and his face was pale. He had denied it in his heart more than once, but he didn't expect it to really be Feng Wenhai. The great elder glanced at Feng Yuan and transmitted his voice, "Fenglan, you were right. Jiang Haotian is a character, the show is finally about to begin." It's just that I don't understand, what does this have to do with the deputy pavilion master? Shangguan Fenglan was full of doubts. This is also the problem this old man is puzzled about. The great elder thought. Why? Why did you kill Wenhai? Feng Yuan came back to his senses and immediately stared at Qin Feiyang and the others, roaring angrily. Shouldn't he be killed? Qin Feiyang asked. I admit that he did something wrong to you in the past, but those things have already ended. And ever since he was expelled from Nine Heavens Palace, he has been reflecting, blaming himself, and feeling guilty. He's already like this, why won't you let him go? Feng Yuan roared hysterically. Reflecting? Blaming himself? Feeling guilty? Qin Feiyang's face was full of mockery. How could he not know what kind of person Feng Wenhai was? How could he reflect? Not to mention blaming himself and feeling guilty. Plop. Feng Yuan knelt in front of the great elder and shouted, "These little bastards are simply too lawless, great elder, you must uphold justice for me. Don't worry. This old man will get to the bottom of this matter." The great elder comforted Feng Yuan, then looked at Qin Feiyang and the others and said, "Speak, why did you kill Feng Wenhai?" Because he deserved to die. Not only did he deserve to die, but Feng Yuan also deserved to die. Frenzy roared, his eyes red. The powerhouses were surprised. The great elder was also stunned. After being together for so long, this was the first time he saw Frenzy so angry. What secrets were hidden in this? Qin Feiyang said, "Senior brother Frenzy, calm down, let me handle it." Okay. Frenzy nodded. Qin Feiyang looked at Feng Yuan and said, old bastard, you've done a lot of shady things over the years. You want to slander this old man? This old man has done righteous things, I'm not afraid of your slander. Why don't you tell everyone what I've done that can't be exposed? Feng Yuan sneered. You used your power, embezzled public funds, and cheated for personal gains. That's your first crime. You added fuel to the fire behind the scenes, bribing people from the law enforcement hall with the intention of letting Feng Wenhai and Yin Hui take over Shengguan Fenglan. That's your second crime. As the hall master of the resource hall, as the person in charge of Nine Heavens Palace, you should take care of us disciples, but you repeatedly instigated Feng Wenhai, Jin Yunchang, and Jin Fatso to frame us, wanting to kill us. That's your third crime. You used the trust of others to harm your fellow disciples, deceiving your superiors and subordinates. That's your fourth crime. And, there are too many, I can't even count them. You're scum, you don't deserve to live in this world. Qin Feiyang shouted. Huh, I cheated for personal gains? Took over Shengguan Fenglan. Framed you? Harmed fellow disciples? Your imagination is really rich. Okay. Even if what you said is true, where's the evidence? Take out the evidence. Don't tell me you want Guyong to testify. Who doesn't know that Guyong is now your man, who will believe what he says? Feng Yuan's face was full of ridicule. But in his heart, he was shocked. She had actually investigated his background so thoroughly without anyone noticing. Guyong was once your confidant, why can't his words be trusted? Qin Feiyang asked. That was in the past. Now that he's your man, he will naturally collude with you to slander this old man. Feng Yuan sneered. Is that so? I heard from Guyong that you have an account book in your hands. In this account book, there is evidence of your corruption over the years. I think this account book should be with you now. Qin Feiyang smiled. Guyong said, it's in his qi, stored in a box. Damn it. Feng Yuan cursed, his heart suddenly panicking. What's wrong? Are you starting to panic? Do you know why I asked Gongzi Feng to tell you that Guyong has been killed by me when I was in prison? Qin Feiyang joked. Why? Feng Yuan said in a deep voice. The chief elder and the others also looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Chapter 2158. It's very simple. It's for the account book. If I tell you that Guyong is still alive, then you definitely won't keep the account book with you. Because with your intelligence, you can imagine that Guyong would tell me about this. Once this matter blows up, the first elder will definitely search you. On the contrary. When you know that Guyong is dead, you will let down your guard. Because there is no place safer than keeping it with you. Qin Feiyang said. Smart. Feng Yuan gave him a thumbs up, but he was not worried at all. He laughed and said, but this old man still has the same words. If you are upright, you are not afraid of a body search. First elder, please search. Huh? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He actually took the initiative to ask for a body search. The first elder glanced at Qin Feiyang, then looked at Shengguan Fenglan and said, search. Yes. Shengguan Fenglan nodded, got up, and released her divine sense to cover Feng Yuan. Mu Tianyang transmitted his voice and said, this old fart is also too calm and collected. He is indeed too calm. Is the account book not with him? Maybe it has been destroyed by him. Qin Feiyang muttered. It can't be destroyed. Once the account book is destroyed, then it can't be matched. It must be hidden somewhere. Guyong said telepathically. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly, and he glanced at Feng Wenhai's body. Such an important thing would definitely be kept by the people he trusted the most. The people Feng Yuan trusted the most now were undoubtedly Feng Wenhai and Feng Zihan. Because there were only these two people left in the Feng family now. A moment later, Shengguan Fenglan retracted her divine sense, looked at the first elder, and shook her head. No. The first elder said, search the interspatial ring again. Yes. Shengguan Fenglan nodded and looked at Feng Yuan. Feng Yuan did not hesitate at all, directly took off the interspatial ring and threw it to Shengguan Fenglan. Looking at the calm Feng Yuan, Qin Feiyang and the others were basically sure that the account book was not with Feng Yuan now. Qin Feiyang once again offered Wenhai's corpse. There was also an interspatial ring on Feng Wenhai's left index finger. He looked at the interspatial ring with flickering eyes. Several dozen breaths later, Shengguan Fenglan looked at the first elder again and shook her head. No. Jiang Haotian, how is it? The truth is the truth. What else do you have to say now? Feng Yuan sneered. Qin Feiyang remained silent. Great elder, this is purely because they colluded to frame me. Please punish them severely and give me justice. Feng Yuan looked at the first elder and called out. The great elder furrowed his brows imperceptibly. He looked at Qin Feiyang and the others and said in a deep voice, framing a hall master is not a small crime. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed as he shot towards Feng Wenhai's corpse. What do you want to do? Feng Yuan was shocked. He hurriedly stood in front of Feng Wenhai's corpse and shouted at Qin Feiyang. What are you doing? I just want to see Feng Wenhai's interspatial ring. Why are you so nervous? Qin Feiyang said. Why am I nervous? The dead is more important. I won't allow you to desecrate his corpse. Feng Yuan shouted. Is that so? Qin Feiyang smiled mockingly. He was already sure that the account book was with Feng Wenhai. Firstly, Feng Yuan's reaction was too abnormal. Secondly, Feng Zihan was too young and was still in Jiutian Palace. Feng Yuan would definitely not trust her. But Feng Wenhai was different. He was cunning. And he was hiding in Longquan Mountain. So it was safer to leave the account book with Feng Wenhai. Feng Yuan said angrily, what do you think? I think the account book is with Feng Wenhai. Qin Feiyang raised the corner of his mouth and looked at the first elder. He bowed and said, First elder, please search Feng Wenhai. With Feng Yuan blocking him, he definitely couldn't get close, so he could only ask the first elder to do it. The first elder nodded and looked at Shengguan Fenglan. Go search. First elder, the dead are more important. Feng Yuan shouted. Shengguan Fenglan stepped forward and said, Feng Yuan, please get out of the way. No. You can't treat Wenhai like this. He's already dead. Can you respect him? Feng Yuan said angrily. Shengguan Fenglan frowned. Feng Yuan, it's not a matter of respect now. It's about your innocence. If you stop me like this, then I have reason to suspect that what Jiang Haotian said is true. The first elder said. Feng Yuan's face was gloomy. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered, and suddenly a sense of uneasiness emerged in his heart. He hurriedly sent a voice transmission, Hall Master, be careful of him destroying the corpse. Shengguan Fenglan heard this and her heart trembled. She shouted, Feng Yuan, you don't even listen to the first elder's order? Get out of the way immediately. Feng Yuan's eyes trembled. Immediately after, a hint of fierceness flashed in his eyes, and he roared, even if I destroy him with my own hands, I won't let you touch his corpse. Boom! As he roared, he threw a punch at Feng Wenhai's corpse. This brat guessed correctly. He really wants to destroy the corpse to destroy the evidence. Shengguan Fenglan muttered. Swish! She reached out like lightning, grabbed Feng Yuan's wrist, and then kicked at Feng Wenhai's corpse. Feng Wenhai's corpse immediately flew to the feet of Qin Feiyang and the others. Shengguan Fenglan shouted without turning her head, "Search him immediately." Qin Feiyang nodded, and his divine sense emerged and poured into Feng Wenhai's body. "Shengguan Fenglan, you've gone too far." Feng Yuan roared and slapped at Shengguan Fenglan. "Feng Yuan, how dare you be presumptuous!" The great elder suddenly shouted coldly, and a vast and mighty pressure rolled out. Feng Yuan was confined to the spot on the spot, unable to move at all. This is the first elder's strength? Even Feng Yuan can't move under his pressure. Qin Feiyang looked at the great elder who was sitting at the top in shock. The first elder shouted, "What are you looking at? Search quickly." "Yes, yes, yes." Qin Feiyang nodded repeatedly, and his divine sense quickly poured into Feng Wenhai's qi. Immediately, his eyes lit up. Immediately after, a black iron box appeared from Feng Wenhai's qi. Seeing Qin Feiyang find the black iron box, Feng Yuan immediately closed his eyes in despair. Qin Feiyang stood up and opened the iron box, and saw a yellowing account book lying quietly inside. "That's it." Guiyong went forward to take a look and immediately exclaimed. Qin Feiyang looked at Feng Yuan and sneered, then handed the account book to Shengguan Fenglan. Shengguan Fenglan then handed the account book to the first elder. The great elder took the account book and flipped it open to read it carefully. 2 pinnacle divine artifacts. 3 pinnacle divine arts. 50 million soul stones. 70 million soul stones. 200 million soul stones. 3 billion divine crystals. These were the contents of the account book, which was the things that Feng Yuan had embezzled. It was recorded very clearly, even the dates were recorded. The account book was as thick as a finger. And on it, there was actually a full half of the account book. It was hard to imagine how much Feng Yuan had embezzled over the years. Bastard! The first elder only read a dozen pages before he couldn't continue reading. He angrily slammed the account book on the table and shouted at the major giants, "All of you also take a good look for this old man. This is the good deed that our 9 Heavens Palace Resource Hall Master has done all these years." Everyone looked at each other. How much had he embezzled to make the first elder so angry? Shengguan Fenglan was the first to grab the account book, looked at it carefully for a while, and then slammed the account book on the table with a face full of anger. Immediately after, the major giants also looked at the account book one after another. Without exception, they were all filled with anger in the end. The first elder released his pressure and looked at Feng Yuan. "You are really amazing, you are really our role model." Plop. Feng Yuan's body trembled and knelt on the ground powerlessly. "You are deceiving the trust of this old man and the deputy pavilion master in you. Such a person's death is not to be regretted." The first elder shouted. "First elder, I was wrong, I was wrong. Please have mercy, I will definitely repent, give me another chance. Everyone, please help me beg for mercy. In the past, I was really muddle-headed, I will definitely repent and turn over a new leaf." Feng Yuan's body and mind were trembling. It was obvious that the first elder had the intention to kill him, and he begged again and again. However, none of the major giants present paid attention to him. Because they also knew that Feng Yuan's luck was over. If they continued to help Feng Yuan, it would be asking for trouble. At that time, the first elder might even punish them together. "First elder, I beg you. I really know that I was wrong. Just give me another chance on account of the hard work I've put in all these years, even if I haven't made any contributions." Feng Yuan was already flustered. "Chance? Forget it, my 9 Heavens Palace can't afford to raise a talent like you. Hand over your identity token, and scram. From now on, whether it is you or your descendants, you are not allowed to enter the 9 Heavens Palace." Protect Feng Zihan. The first elder said expressionlessly. What? Even Zihan has to leave the Nine Heavens Palace? Feng Yuan's face turned pale. First elder, this matter has nothing to do with Zihan, it is all my fault, please let Zihan go, okay? But for this result, Qin Feiyang was deeply surprised. He actually didn't kill Feng Yuan, but only expelled him from the Nine Heavens Palace? What was this first elder thinking? Frenzy secretly said, this result, I have already expected it. Expected? Qin Feiyang frowned. Although Feng Yuan has indeed embezzled a lot, but as he said, even if there is no merit, there is still hard work. The old man will not kill him. Frenzy said. Qin Feiyang transmitted, in that case, we still have to use our ultimate move. Yes. Frenzy nodded. I don't object to you using your ultimate move, but can you keep the Golden Crow Temple a secret? Mu Tianyang secretly said. It wasn't easy to obtain a spatial divine item with a time array, he didn't want to lose it just like that. Frenzy glanced at Mu Tianyang and didn't say anything. The first elder looked at Feng Yuan gloomily, this old man doesn't want to hear any more nonsense, immediately take Feng Zihan and scram out of the Nine Heavens Palace. Feng Yuan collapsed on the ground like a dead dog, his face filled with despair. But at this time, Qin Feiyang spoke, First elder, wait, this disciple has something to say. The first elder looked at Qin Feiyang, this old man knows what you want to say. But this old man has made up his mind. Do you really know what this disciple wants to say? If it is for such a small matter, would senior brother Frenzy be so angry? If it is for such a small matter, would this disciple invite the Vice Pavilion Master to our Nine Heavens Palace? Qin Feiyang said. Hearing this, the Vice Pavilion Master's old eyes flashed. The first elder's expression froze. Shengguan Fenglan and the others also looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. Could there be something more serious? You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.